looking forward to this for a while, but our lives have conspired against us, haven't they?
Absolutely. I just made it about half an hour before even today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on the motorway, I was thinking, I can't make the call and say, look, I'm sorry, we are going to have to rearrange the date. So I thought to myself, no, it's okay. I will still keep the speed limit, but get here. So I did.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Someone else arranged this, didn't they? I can't remember who it was, and I don't remember how we decided the subject or whatever, but we're going to be discussing whether or not the Qur'an is man-made. Somehow we've agreed to have that discussion.
You had suggested the title.
Is that what I suggested?
Yes.
It was so long ago, I can't remember.
That's true.
So, I mean, let's see. Let's see if we can decide, agree on a default position, first of all. So, if you were given a large container full of books and someone said, pull one out at random, and you have to say whether that book is going to be written by God or not before you pull it out, would you say, now, putting aside the fact that you're not a gambling man, obviously, but would you go with the book I'm about to pull out at random from, say, a million books is man-made or written by God?
Is that a question?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, actually, I agree with you. I mean, if a container was given to me and I was asked, right, just pick a book randomly, I would first want to know what criteria we would adopt to establish what we are about to do.
Pretend that there was a God, and it was God doing it, and then God will say, you were right or you were wrong.
Right, well, I have a different view as opposed to many other human beings, because my view is this, that if we were to assume there was a creator, then logically speaking, the creator by definition would be superior to the creation. So logic would dictate that it is the creator who would provide the necessary information for us to establish whether that particular message that claims to be from a creator is from the creator, as opposed to human beings making a determination based on their limited knowledge.
But, I mean, putting aside how we would assess whether you got the right answer or not, just statistically, do you think that you would say, I'd be safer off saying that the next book I pull out will be written by humans?
Well, on what basis would I be able to say that?
I mean, just putting aside the details of how you would decide if your answer was correct or not, if you, whatever criteria it was that you were happy with, said, right, that maybe let's say there was one book in this box of a million, at least one book, right? I mean, basically what I'm getting at, it's over-labouring it, I think.
Yeah, it's better getting to the point.
But I think what I tried to quickly agree on was that basically we should assume that books are man-made unless proven otherwise.
Right, so books are man-made unless proven otherwise, which I can readily agree with you, in that any book that a human being picks up, okay,
Yeah.
by definition, would have been written by a man,
Yeah.
okay, which is fine for me. As a Muslim, the issue that is raised for me is the fact that when we look at the Qur'an as an example, it wasn't given to a man in written form. It was revealed. And then that particular message was formulated in book form that we consider to be a book.
Yeah.
So, in that respect, the Quran also on that point would not actually be considered to be the same as what you just said about every book being written by a man.
No, when I say written, I really kind of meant authored.
Right, when you say authored also, it again comes to the same point that if, for example, again we are talking about the Quran, if the Quran was revealed as is commonly known, and that particular message in totality was then formulated in book form the way we know books to be, it still doesn't actually match exactly what the suggestion is that you are making.
Okay, so, I think we can agree basically that on books that aren't written by God, is basically if we pick up a book at random, the majority, if not all, as I would argue, the majority of books in this world are authored by humans. And we're going to see if you can establish that it was actually authored by the intelligent creator of the universe. And not only will basically the onus of proof is on you, obviously, because you are making the claim away from the standard. But in addition to that, I don't want to make it one-sided. I'm actually going to argue positively that it is man-made as well.
I would actually, you see, you made a point here that the onus is on me. I would readily agree, but for the fact that we haven't even established the criteria we are going to use to determine whether it is man-made or not.
Oh no, that's fine. I don't know why you believe it's not. So, I can't specify some kind of criteria. For example, do you believe every word in the Qur'an is exactly as it was revealed?
It's not a question of belief, it's a question of what the evidence states, and as far as I'm concerned, the evidence states that that is the case. And if I can... Sorry, if I can just finish, Pete. Yeah? Yeah, it's okay. One of the things that I do know, as I had made the point at the start, that the Quran, in relation to this book format that we are talking about, the Quran was a revelation to a human being, and that revelation was then formulated in a book form. Now, if the revelation came, and there was a tradition, as I'm sure you are already aware, there was a tradition of oral transmission, and that continued up to this day, because one of the, this is not the first time this question has been actually discussed by me with my colleagues, atheists and otherwise, but every time it is raised, I usually tell them, look, there's a very simple answer to this as to whether it is man-made or not. And I usually say to them, look, I know, even on a basic understanding, that the Quran is not authored by a human being the way we are possibly understanding authorship of a human being ought to be. Why? Because I know that there is no book on the face of this earth in formulated form. Yeah, there is no message in book formulation which can be memorized by 6-year-olds to 60. And oftentimes when I discuss this, people, for example, one of the gentlemen told me, he says, but there hasn't been a reason to memorize any other book. To me, that is a cop-out answer, because the challenge is there that, look, there is something special about this. There has to be. If there wasn't any other book in the format of the Quran and also the content, yes, would be able to be memorized very easily, which is not the case, and that is still a standing challenge.
Well, I think all that actually proves is that this person had the ability and motivation to remember a book. The motivation being that socially the parents had basically interested them in the idea of learning this book, and they're the kind of person that can remember lots of things with continued practice. It's not.
Sorry, please.
It's not that everyone. It's not that everyone can remember it. Of course, some people have got good memories, some have got bad. And in exceptional cases, yes, some children can remember lots of things. If you happen to be a Muslim and teach your child the Quran, and they're one of these exceptional children, then they will remember the Quran. If you happen to be interested in chess. Maybe they'll learn lots of chess moves. Maybe they'll learn how to memorise techniques for memorising cards, playing cards in random orders. Capitals of the world, various things. So, I mean, it doesn't prove anything. It just proves that a 6-year-old can remember the contents of a book.
Right. Actually, Pete, I noted quite a few times you said maybe this, maybe that, which I agree with. However, the way I'm looking at it, and I will try and clarify it a bit more, is this. That if the suggestion is being made that, well, it depends on how much effort is being put in, or maybe a pack of cards, etc., I can readily agree, but I did say very clearly that the content of the Quran, that is a book that is nearly, let's say, on average 1,000 pages. And I know, and this is a challenge, that is what I'm saying, a challenge I make to people to tell me, look, you will come out with reasons for why you think, well, nothing special about that. However, if I were to turn that around and say, wait a minute, I can agree with you readily, but do you know of any book the size of the Quran which has been memorized, let's say, by 100 people, let alone thousands, and even putting aside the age differences, like I said, 6 to 60, do you know of any book which has been memorized to this extent? I haven't been told by anybody, yes, I can, here's the book and here are the these 100 people who can. So it isn't as, maybe as simple as you make out.
Well, as I said, all it shows is that a young person can do it, can memorise a book. All it means is that if lots of people do it, it means that the book is socially popular enough, and the idea of memorising that book is socially popular enough. You're not telling me anything that isn't just social.
Actually, right, actually, Ed, there's one thing you have missed out here. Because this memorization element you are talking about goes across languages, it transcends languages. And when you say, well, that's all it is, I am saying, wait a minute, my central question here is this: is there any other book equivalent to the contents of the Quran or the size of the Quran which anyone, give me, like I said, forget 100, I'll say 10 people who have memorized it? And the answer is no. So yes, we can easily just dismiss it, but the fact is that it is a, like we say, it is a book which has been memorized by thousands of people, transcending languages, yet no one has been able to turn around and say, okay, wait a minute, if there are so many people who can do that with the Quran, then there are so many people who can do with X book.
Yeah, well, as I said, that's just a cultural phenomenon. You say it transcends language.
Yes.
Well, that's just an impressive attempt at saying people remembered phonemes. They just sounds ba, ta, 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 ba. If I can repeat that to a child for long enough, and it's the right kind of child, then I could teach the child a very long string of ba, ta, 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 stuff like this.
Yeah.
It can be done. All you've got is a social phenomenon that makes it seem like you've got social phenomenon that impresses the importance of doing it amongst a hell of a lot of people. And then out of all of these people that do it, you're going to have a lot of people that can do it, even if they don't speak Arabic, because they're just learning phoneme sounds. And of some of those, I mean, you're talking over 1 billion people. You can't expect me to be surprised that some of them are as young as 6. You do get entrance in world memory competitions where you'll get like a 9-year-old. They'll give them a number they haven't seen before, and it's what, 180 binary digits, ones and zeros. Right? It's just ones and zeros. A 9-year-old Chinese boy memorised 180 binary digits. I mean, that's not even getting to practice for days or years. Of course, you do get exceptions, and when you're choosing from a pool of over 1 billion people, of course you're going to find a 6-year-old that does it. It's a cultural phenomenon that lots of people in the world have a go at, and in some cases you find exceptional for children, but that's because you're using it. absolute massive sample size. I would be surprised if it didn't happen. If people thought that Moby Dick, or say Moby Dick, if people thought that Moby Dick was worth memorising for whatever reason, whether from God or because it shows you brainy or makes you a good match for a partner or whatever, if people believed that it was beneficial to do that, people would start learning Moby Dick from memory rather than from reading. And once you've got over 1 billion people who all believe that it's great to do this, and you've got so many people doing it, at a sample size of 1.2 billion, you are going to get thousands, tens of thousands even, of people memorising it. And some of those are going to be 6-year-old children. But it does not make Moby Dick a book authored by the creator of the universe. Even the book Moby Dick at the end said, yes, authored by the creator of the universe. It doesn't make, it's just a statistical thing. It's a social thing, and statistically completely expected.
Right, okay. Now, Ed, you see, you are absolutely correct when you said that, it's a phenomenon. I agree with you, okay, cultural or otherwise, but it is a phenomenon nevertheless. And the one important point, and I did make it when I said to you, when I was speaking to this gentleman, he came up with the same sort of what I call reasons, excuses, call them what you want, yes, for why there are no other books. You just mentioned Moby Dick, which I agree with. However, the fact is that despite what you have said, the fact is there is no comparison with any other book, with any other group of people, using statistics also, which can match this phenomenon that you talked about, the Quran. Now, if I can just, sorry, sorry, Pete, I'm sorry, is it Ed? It is Pete, sorry, I do apologize. Yeah, you see, Pete, the point I'm making is this. Everybody can come out with reasons to justify their position, which is fair, that's what we all do. However, here is what I would consider an objective criteria which can be adopted. You talked about the Chinese girl and the ones and zeros. You will have heard when I started, I did say the contents and how many possible pages, because the message was revealed, yes, as you are also aware, that it was through memory and it was oral transmission. The fact is, there is no other book today which can be memorized this way. Now, if you want to suggest that, well, it depends on whether people found it important or not. I am suggesting that you can still try it even now. Take up the challenge and try and do it. I know that the majority of the people that I've discussed this matter with have always come out with one reason or excuse or another for why they can't do it. To me, it's a simple test. That look, here, if I can just nearly finish, Pete. Yeah, the book is there. Just tell me, okay, Pete, you can tell me, okay, Shabir, listen, Moby Dick, I'm going to get 100 friends of mine and we are going to memorize it. And I will say to you, no, don't do that. Here is what I suggest to you. Let's have a like for like, okay? Find a book equivalent. Can you just give me this, please? Sorry, Pete, I'm just showing you something. Yeah? For example, can you see this? Yeah? The Road to Reality by Sir Roger Penrose.
Anyone tries to memorize it. I'm trying to read that book.
No.
I didn't understand it when the words are on the page.
No. I'm just using. Absolutely. No, there is no equivalence because this is definitely far thicker. Okay? But the point I'm making is, if I go to approximately 1,000 pages, which is here, that much there, yeah, it might be too much. Let's reduce it. Let me be kind and bring it down to here. Something equivalent to this. I say, okay, bring 10 or 100 friends. Forget 100. Let's come down to 10 friends who can do that as a challenge to prove the Quran wrong. A simple test. Yes? Before we go into the complexities or the explanations of why this verse says this, that verse says, this is a simple test that anyone can undertake. And since it transcends languages, all the better. So we don't have to be in a position to translate Shakespeare into English, although it was written in English, if you get the gist.
Well, as I said,
yes.
What you basically do is you're taking a book which has had a large social influence on a large part of the world, that came from a society that valued oral recitation, and because of that, it's not only has the book affected people, but people who have been affected by the book have obviously seen oral recitation as an important thing. And then you're saying, because lots of people can recite the Qur'an, therefore it's from God. But all you're doing is you're taking criteria that is, as far as we both know, is unique to the Qur'an, and saying the way to decide if a book is written by God is if it matches this criteria that I derived from the Qur'an. So basically what you're doing is you're defining your criteria based on the book, and you're not judging the book based on an independent criteria. I think that only Muslims, and they're not even all Muslims.
Sorry, Pete, you just said...
if lots of people can memorise a book, it's from God.
Sorry, Pete, you just said that it is a criteria or something unique to the Quran, and I use the Quran to determine this. Is that what you just said?
Well, yeah.
Right. Where so far, sorry Pete, so far as you can remember, where in the Quran does it say that?
No, I'm not saying you're basing your criteria on the Quran. I'm not saying you're basing your criteria on what you've read inside the Quran.
Where? Where is it?
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is you're looking at something that you think is unique about the Quran and saying any book that has this unique thing, yes, that's only the Quran, must be a book from God.
I didn't say that. What I said, and I will just repeat, Pete, I said there is no other book on the face of this earth, yes, in terms of content and in terms of the amount, the size of the Quran, where it has been memorized by, forget 100 people, as I said, I've reduced it to 10 people. Yeah. Now, as you are rightfully trying to point out to me, wait a minute, you have taken the criteria from the Quran. I didn't say anything like that, but what I did say at the start is, look, should we first determine the criteria wherewith to determine whether it is from the Creator or not? And I, in response, said, well, actually, there is a simple objective test here. And this is what I find amazing about many of my colleagues that I talk to, including yourself here respectfully. There's an objective criteria I'm applying here. That look, whether it is important or not, whether it is cultural or not, the fact is, it is a test that can be applied. It is a test that, if I can just finish, it is a test that can be utilized today. Why can't we, me and you, Pete, right now say, okay, I tell you what, yeah, if I was in your chair, this is what I would say to me. I would say, Shabir, I tell you what, I'll take up your challenge. Let's see if that is the case or not. Now, I am confident that there is no way anyone is going to be able to do this. Now, why am I confident? Because anything that human beings do, yes, by definition, will only do what is limited to them. And whatever they are going to do, somewhere along the line, they will say something, and 5 minutes later they will have forgotten. Just like you know, when we discussed the title, I said to you, actually, Pete, it was you who suggested the title. And what did you say? You said, well, it was such a long time I've forgotten. And that was only about 3 or 4 months ago, correct?
Yeah.
Yes? Now here we are talking about, again, taking a historical element to it.
Before you continue with that,
sorry.
That's because it actually wasn't an important fact in my life to remember who came up with the title. I mean, the fact that it wasn't relevant to remember it is exactly why I remember it. So, so finish on that.
That's fine, not a problem at all. It wasn't important to you, but the fact is, you are going to have to agree with me that memories fade, the faculty fades, people become very forgetful. There are so many elements which you have to take into consideration in relation to the memory. Not only that, but here, the reason I pulled up this a few months ago is the fact that Here we are talking about a title which one suggested, one has forgotten, as you rightly pointed out, maybe it wasn't important to you, but the fact is, it is to do with memory. And I am again reiterating my point here, that look, Pete, just tell me, Shabir, okay, I'm going to take up your challenge, and I will prove to you 10 people. Now you are going to have to tell me, because I'm just going on what you said, Pete, because I know you find it very important, because I have had an opportunity to look at your videos, you find it very important to prove to people that Islam and the Qur'an is not the word of God. Unless I misunderstood, because I do think that you find that very important. And to me, I think, well, if it is as important as that, here is a Muslim telling you, Pete, how about it? Take up this challenge. Yeah, whether it's important or not, whether it's culturally relevant or not, is not the issue. The issue here is this, Pete. It's an objective test which can be applied readily today. Are you prepared to take it up?
Yes.
Excellent. You tell me.
If I can name one book that at least 10 people have memorised from cover to cover that's at least as thick as the Qur'an, you accept that this argument
yes. Is flawed. It's flawed. The argument is flawed. Yes, I would. Name me the book and name me the people.
The phone book. How many times have you seen memory people on the television showing their amazing feats of memory, and they've spent months memorising the phone book, right? There's more than 10 just in the UK. Now you imagine how many people there will be in a single state in America, or maybe in Sweden, or what have you.
Yeah.
There are more than 10 people in the UK right now who have memorised the entire phone book, which is thicker than the Qur'an, right? And they've memorised it for their livelihood as a stage act, because to them it is important to memorise it. It's important to them to memorise it, because it passes people, that gets them jobs, that gets them money.
Yes.
So there's social
Okay.
benefit there for them to memorise.
Right, Pete.
And I will argue,
Sorry.
also that it's more difficult to memorise because it involves numbers, and the numbers won't have sequences to them.
Right, okay, Pete. I appreciate your try there, but I will repeat what I said. I said content and size. Now, the fact that you brought up, you told me, and I heard you very carefully. You said, so if I were to bring up a book and have 10 people, and then you went ahead and told me about how there are people who have memorized the phone book, and according to you, it's thicker than the Quran. Is that what you just said? Right, okay. Now, look at this. I am saying to you, name me the book, get the people there. Let's see if that is the case. I mean, even I can say, oh yes, there is a person, because there are many people, and I know about them. There are also individuals who are given a title of savants, who have this ability to do it. But you see...
Not just savants, just people on stage shows.
No, here we are. Yes, you can talk about stage shows. The fact is, it's only your words that I'm listening to. Here, I did say, and I'll repeat again, there's an objective test which can be applied. Now, an objective test ought to be applied, reasonably speaking, by people who are wanting to know whether this test is being applied properly and whether that test is being passed. So if you are going to tell me, okay, you know what, I can find 10 people, a book as thick as the Quran, I would say, right, Pete, tell me where, I will turn up, and let's see whether that is the case. I'm confident that can't happen, it won't happen. So go for it.
So basically you're rejecting my argument because I can't physically bring the people to you.
No, respectfully, Pete, it's not a question of an argument. If you heard me carefully, and I'll repeat it yet again, it's an objective test. An objective test doesn't require somebody believing something. I'm sure you understand that.
I mean, don't keep saying it's an objective test. I know that you said it's an objective test, but it's non sequitur, it doesn't follow. Basically what you're saying is, it's now, what can I think of that you about the Quran? This. Right, objectively, you can test if other books, if this criteria can apply to other books. That is the only part of your test that is actually objective. The part of the ball that isn't objective is the conclusion. The conclusion that therefore the book is written by God. And there's a really good analogy to do with playing golf. Imagine you've got an absolutely massive golf course. You get your ball, you whack it, and it lands really far away on the specific blade of grass. That's the first blade of grass it touches on the way down. Then you look at that ball and think, what's unique about that ball? That ball is the only one that touched that specific blade of grass just before it landed. Are there any other golf balls that I can show that meet that criteria? Well, no, I can't show that criteria is true. Therefore, this golf ball must have been made directly by God, or it's by God. And if you want to prove me wrong, you get loads of people out, Tiger Woods, whoever you want, get them out there on the golf course, get them to smack the ball, and we'll see if they can make their ball touch that specific blade of grass first. That's basically what you're saying.
No, I'm not actually, respectfully, and you've got it completely wrong. I'll just go back to what you said before I explain why I don't think it fits what we are saying. You see, number one, I said it's an objective test, okay? Now, what is an objective test, okay? Here is a piece of paper, and we both agree it is a piece of paper. We both are going to say, right, you know what? X, Y, and Z are going to take this piece of paper and memorize it. So far, so good. I'm not threatening them. You aren't cajoling them. Nothing like that is happening. The point here is this. Before I come to your example, you earlier on, I was so glad I thought you had actually taken up the challenge. And this seems to be a retraction. Okay? Why I said that respectfully is this. When you talk about a golf ball being whacked to wherever, okay? You know and I know that when a golf ball is hit, okay, many elements are going to take place, including friction, yes, including the ball traveling in a particular way. If a breeze suddenly hits it, the ball suddenly slants away. It doesn't fit with what I'm saying. Not only that, the Qur'an is there. Any other book, including Moby Dick, as you mentioned, is there. I'm saying, well, look, here is the Quran, something equivalent to that in content and amount. Find me 10 people, P. Now, you can try and dismiss it as much as you want respectfully. On this point only I'm saying, you can try and dismiss it, but the fact is, I have actually put an objective test here. Now, you have, respectfully, you have taken it and said, well, because you are saying that, yes, you are automatically concluding it must be from the Creator. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that there is a test here. First apply it, or at least pluck up the necessary courage, and I mean this in the friendliest of manner, Pete. Yeah? Pluck up the courage to say, wait a minute, Shabir, I agree with what you are saying. It is a test, whether I agree with it or not. It is actually a test, and I am prepared to take up this challenge of yours here and now, and we will. I don't mind where you tell me, we will travel, come to a place, and take up. Either you tell me now, Pete, okay, listen, I appreciate that it may be a test, okay, but it's not one that interests me. I will say, okay, fine, no problem, but as far as I'm concerned, an objective test, one of many which we may be able to take up in the future, God willing. Take it out.
There's lots of things that you wouldn't mind me answering, but I'd just be happy.
No, just that one.
Give me a chance.
Just that one.
The golf analogy
Yeah.
wasn't about how difficult it is to meet the challenge. It was simply a way of showing that the fact that the golf ball landed on a specific blade of grass is actually not remarkable at all. But it's just not likely to happen again, or hasn't happened. And basically, if we use a rare thing to prove something that doesn't follow, you're not proving anything at all. The fact that it hit that blade of grass first just means simply it hit that blade of grass first. The fact that so many people can memorise the Qur'an just means lots of people can memorise the Qur'an. I did give you a book that more than 10 people have memorised, the phone book. It has got more information. It has got more information in the Quran. I would argue, and I'm happy to look at the facts, I would argue that there are more words in a England phone book than there are in the Quran. Right? I would argue it's more difficult to memorise because it's got numbers in it, and numbers that don't follow patterns. Not all follow patterns. In a set sequence, that is. And as soon as I told you the book, then now you don't want a book that lots of people can memorise. Now you want a book like the Quran that lots of people can memorise.
Well, respectfully, Pete, it means you aren't listening carefully, because I consistently said content and size. Content and size. And I would also add this. Look, it's strange here. You are telling me I would argue this point, I would argue that point, I would argue this point, which I readily accept. You are entitled to that. However, you still want to completely bypass this objective test that I have given. Why can't you just tell me, Pete, tell me, Shabir, listen, okay, I agree with you, let's take up this challenge, we'll do it. What is wrong? What is wrong with you telling me that instead of trying to, respectfully, if I can just finish, sorry Pete, if I can just finish, instead of telling me why you, why you should, the example is of a golf ball, instead of telling me, well, the telephone book, I gave you a book and I also told you there are more than 10 people. To me, this is what you are telling me, yes? To me, that suggests that, look, I may be onto something here, and it is merely a suggestion, but over and above that, I'm making it very clear. There is an objective test, and if I was in your shoes, Pete, I know what I would do. I would immediately say, Shabir, I take up your challenge, let's do it. I'm just surprised that you are trying to come out with so many reasons for not taking on the test.
No, you keep saying that I'm not giving you a reason. I've given you a reason plenty of times. The golf ball analogy was an attempt at trying to get you to understand what the reason is. And the reason is it's a pointless test because whether I fail it or pass it is actually relevant, right? Because let's say I pass it, people will just say, well, that was a stupid test because it's not like the Quran says that. The Quran doesn't say you can find a book that people can memorise, then this isn't true. The test isn't in the Quran. So who's to come up with this criteria? Shabir came up with it. Well, that's Shabir's argument, not Islam's argument. So it would be absolutely pointless endeavour for me and 9 other people to learn the contents of a long book to prove you wrong. When the important point is it's non sequitur. Your criteria is objective. You can objectively test if people can memorise books of this size or not. I do not dispute that, and I've said it about 3 or 4 times. It is an objective test, but the outcome of the objective test doesn't prove the thing that you're trying to say. It doesn't assert any kind of divinity or anything. It just says whether people can learn a book or not. That's literally all it does.
Right, okay, Pete, you see.
Look at pop songs, right? I used to go to Spain on holiday, and people who couldn't speak English, right, they could sing all of the lyrics to all of the top 40.
Yes.
Right? Alright, it was the top 40 from about a year earlier because they were really backwards with the music. But they knew all the words. Now, I didn't know all the words, and I'm an English speaker and I knew what the words meant. But they knew all of the words. Now, if you take into account how many songs there are, it's a similar kind of thing. It was a cultural phenomenon in Spain back in the 1980s, early 80s, for people to be interested in English and American music. And they used to impress each other with how well they could sing the lyrics of songs they didn't even understand. It's like La Bamba, La Bamba. You know, people in England singing that, they don't know that they're singing about a dancing sheep. No, they just sing that ba-ra-rumba, ba-ra-rumba. They just sing. People do this kind of thing all the time, and because there's a social incentive to it. I mean, people who memorise X number of digits of pi, it's an objective test. We know what those digits are. People can memorise them. Do lots and lots of people memorise them? No, because mainly people in the world who hear that you know 500 digits of But in a small social group, how many digits of pi you know is a very impressive feat, and they will compete amongst themselves to try to outdo each other. So with the right kind of social influence, people do memory challenges, but none of them prove that any kind of divinity is involved in the song about dancing goats or the number of digits memorised in the number of pi. It doesn't follow that divinity is involved just because lots of people can memorise it. It's as simple as that. That's why challenge is important.
Right. So respectfully, Pete, in so many words, you are saying you don't want to take up the challenge.
Yeah, in lots of extremely clear words.
You don't want to take it up.
Yeah, I don't want to pick it up because I think
Right.
it's
Okay. Right. I'll just finish on that one so we can move on. You see, to me, it is simple. Okay. You have told me about how in Spain they memorize songs. So again, as you said, yes, you can remember that there were many people who knew the words, they memorized them, didn't know what they meant, etc. Which is all fine. But at the end of
language.
Sorry?
Transcended language.
Absolutely. So now it makes it all the more unreasonable for me that you don't want to take up the challenge.
No, it doesn't. If you've understood what I've said, and this
I have.
What you should say is that there's a very good reason I don't want to do the challenge. That's because if I succeed, right, and if I get other people to succeed, it doesn't actually prove anything. So it's absolutely pointless. I wouldn't waste my life doing something that's completely pointless.
No.
Because once it's complete, it wouldn't prove anything. All it would do is humour you in your argument because you think it follows that if you can memorise something, if lots of people can memorise something, some kind of divinity is involved. Is that what you're claiming?
Lots
of people can memorise the Qur'an.
Right, Pete, sorry.
Divinely authored.
Yeah, I do appreciate your attempt at this, but at the end of the day, when you say whether it is to humor me or not, the fact is that the conversation began with the question that we were discussing today. I then said to you, look, you were the one who suggested it, but you started off with how to determine the answer to this particular question, and you came out with the example, maybe so many books in a container, okay? And now that in itself, if you want to argue the point that what I said is not in the Quran, nor is this one, okay? So, in reality, an objective test would be one which me and you can both readily agree on, but it will necessarily be applied to the question that we are asking. And I can't see why you can't want to, or you do not want to take up this challenge. Because at the end of the day, the question was, is the Quran man-made?
Yeah. I don't want to keep repeating myself.
Sorry, can I just finish, Pete? Can I just finish?
Your criteria is objective, we just don't agree on what it proves.
No. But we didn't set out to prove something. I merely said, if I can finish, Pete, in the context of what I said, yeah, I have to think this way. I'm thinking, look, Pete is a reasonable individual. He looks at things objectively, I hope, yes, and the best endeavor is the one where we can objectively establish matters. Now, in that respect, this is what I said to you. I also said to you when you said it doesn't say it in the Quran. Yes? I said, well, no, let's look at it carefully here. If you brought up a particular test, in inverted commas, in relation to the container, and I brought up a test, okay, there is reasoning, and my reasoning is valid on the basis that the book we are talking about here may have something to say about this. Because your criteria, well, it wasn't a criteria, it was an example you gave of many books. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry, yeah, you were having a drink. Yeah. So the way I the way I look at it, it is very simple. Me and you now both can apply this particular test. Yes. What its objective is, we haven't talked about. Yes. But I can come to that. However, to me it was a simple question. Are you prepared to take up the challenge? You told me in so many words, no. I can readily accept that, and I understand, but I do know, and I say this confidently, I assert, that the only reason people come up with every excuse under the sun is simply because I know it cannot be done.
Now, the reason that I'm not doing it is, as I said, because I don't believe with you. I don't agree with the conclusion that you come to as to whether memorising a book of equal size and content actually proves anything at all. I've therefore been wasted of my life, except perhaps to convince you that this is a silly argument, and that is not something that is important enough to me to sit down and do.
No problem. I accept.
Are you now saying then that you are not? Are you arguing then that if the Qur'an is the only book in the world that meets this criteria, are you arguing that that proves it is from a divinity or not?
No, not at all. I'm not even arguing. I'm merely saying here is an objective test which we can take up. And my point is this, that sorry, if I can just finish. If something as simple as that cannot be achieved by any other human being, then one can logically infer that there must be something special about that particular book. There's an inference being made here. But the way I look at it here, Pete, look, you are not the first that I have asked, as I said to you earlier on. Many I've asked. And in different ways I've asked, and each one has come out with every excuse under the sun not to take up the challenge. Despite the fact that I say, and I mean this respectfully by the way, despite the fact that I say, look, it's an objective test which you have readily agreed to, yes. Actually, there are many people who don't even agree with that, okay? But to me it's simple. Here it is, this is what it says. How about it? It's an objective test, yeah, we know that. And all I'm saying is, sorry if I can just finish, Pete. Why doesn't anybody just tell me, get on with it? I will take up the challenge. But no problem, I don't mind.
No, that's fine, but I mean, you've got to put it into the context of, you think it's an objective test to test what? I think that it's an objective criteria to test if people can memorise other books or not. Now, I'm sure there's more than 10 people in the world that have memorised the Bible, but I don't suppose putting that to you is any good, because you'll probably say that's because the Bible was also from God. Maybe you will, maybe you won't, I don't know. But I think you've got to agree with me that there are more than 10 people in the world that have memorised the Bible.
Pete, here is the challenge again. You see, what you have just said here, and I must say this, Pete, because I am free to talk with you, there is this tendency of people wanting to say things which they think the other person is going to agree or disagree with. I would say, well, wait a minute, Pete, you've made a statement here. What is the evidence for that statement?
What, the people, that there are more than 10
I'm
people?
sure, yes, there are more than 10 people.
Bible.
Sorry? Have you met them?
You want evidence that there are more than 10 people
Pete,
in the world that can memorise the Bible? Is that what you're asking for?
Respectfully, you made a claim, and I would have thought that you are asserting this because you must have met these people.
No. What I said was, I'm sure you will agree that there are more than 10 people in the world that have memorised the Bible.
I didn't agree. I did not agree with you, Pete. And I am disagreeing on the basis, and I'm saying this, you see, I'm accustomed respectfully, Pete. Sorry, Pete, if I can just finish. Yeah, I'm accustomed to, you said it. You said to me, I'm sure you will agree. I'm saying, no, I don't actually agree with you. And also, I'm adding to that the fact that Pete, you have made a statement, okay? I can construe it to be a claim. And on that basis, I would think that you have got the evidence to prove that. Do you?
Right, okay. Now, the reason I said I'm sure you will agree is because I really didn't think that you would say, could you please prove that at least 10 people in the the world have memorised the Bible. However, no, that's fine, because we have now, as far as I can understand, established an absolutely 100% clear criteria, objective criteria, that if I can find 10 people, 10 examples of people who have memorised the whole Bible, you will accept that that matches the same criteria that you're applying to the Qur'an. Now, what you deduce from that, if I produce you that evidence, I'm not going to do it now, because it will be boring for people watching.
Pete, respectfully, Pete, I must interject, Pete. You are not Pete. You are not talking to the rest of the people. You are talking to me. I'm the one who has asked for this.
Yeah.
So either you tell me, well, look, respectfully, Shabir, I don't have the evidence right now, but I will get it for you. I'm ready to accept.
That's what I am saying to you.
No, I don't think so. You are talking about how people will get bored. Respectfully.
I'm not going to go and find the evidence now.
Okay.
We'll get bored. That's what I'm saying. We'll find the evidence now.
Okay. No problem, Pete. No problem. No problem.
Now have a criterion by which we can definitively test your claim. Not that it links to any kind of conclusion that the Quran is or is not from a divinity. Yeah.
Yes.
But if I can find evidence that 10 people who have memorised the Bible, then we have come to a conclusion that your argument is rubbish because I have met your criteria to disprove it.
Yes, Pete, I will also assist you in this endeavor. You must make sure. No. If I can just finish, Pete, I must also assist you in this endeavor, but you must make sure that it is one version of the Bible. Okay?
I don't mind. I'll just find what I can find. I don't know what I'm going to find until I look.
No, I agree with you. You won't know what to find, because if you come to me with 10 people who have memorized, and it is going to be a strain for you anyway. 10 people who have memorized the Protestant version, I would say, what about the Catholic one? Again, the element of respectfully, the element of superiority of the Quran is not a match there also. But I will let you do that.
Well, I just want to confirm that what you just said was, if 10 people have memorised the Protestant version of the Bible,
yes,
then that would actually make your criteria, because then 10 people that have memorised the exact same edition.
Right. Let's get this very clear, Pete. Since you are labouring on this point, okay? I said to you, one objective test, size and content of the Quran. Yeah, 10 people who have memorized a book. Okay? Now you are saying the Bible, which I readily agree to. I say, yeah, okay. Find me 10 people who have memorized it from A to Z. 10 people, yes? Whether it is the Protestant version, whether it's the Catholic version, no problem. All I'm saying is, okay, 10. But if you are going to make a claim, as you did, okay, then I would naturally want to know, okay, have you got the evidence? And rightfully, you are right. I mean, you can't expect everything to be just there, which I readily agree to. So maybe what we can do, Pete, is you can tell me, okay, I'll tell you what, we will decide on a particular date by which you will be able to find these 10 people, and then we can put them, sorry, what was that?
I'm not going to commit to a specific date because I've got work obligations.
Respectfully, I agree with you, so do we, but at the end of the day, the point here is this. I am ready to accept if you can bring 10 people who have memorized the Bible from A to Z. Yes? Now, the only reason I gave a time limit is because, as you rightly pointed out, we can get into so many things during our daily lives, and that starts taking a backseat up to where we just then forget about it. And I hope that doesn't happen with you.
No, it won't happen because I'm a duck with a bone.
Sorry, what was that? What was that? Sorry, I'm sorry, I never heard you. What did you say?
I said, no, I'm not going to let you forget because I'm like a duck with a bone.
Oh, excellent.
And I'm not going to let it slip.
Excellent. And I'm so glad you are doing it. Finally, we've come to an agreement. Maybe it's worth a challenge taking up.
I think it's a very easy goal to match, and I'm so glad that you've committed yourself to such an easy challenge.
No. No problem at all. I'm so glad you finally agreed with this easy challenge.
Good. Right, so, this is a 3-hour discussion with...
All right, I was about to say, do we need to go any further?
I mean, what I'm going to say is that you've got at least another 30 minutes of giving me arguments for the divine origin of the Qur'an before I start to give you my arguments as to why I think it's definitely man-made. So, I mean, I'm assuming that's not your only argument.
Well, actually, no. I was concerned about this probably happening, Pete. And that is why I think it would have been easier for us prior to our discussion determining the criteria we are going to adopt. Yes, I mean, it's taken me, nearly an hour trying to convince you of one simple test. Okay, we have moved it away now, which is good. But now I'm saying, look, we have asked a question, is the Quran man-made? Now, what criteria are we going to adopt, which we need to agree on, so that we can determine whether it is man-made or it is not?
Well, I'm just interested in why you believe that it's not.
Right. Now,
you tell me.
Respect, yeah.
I find a criteria about what's in your brain, so I don't know what's in there yet. You tell me, why it is that you think that it's not man-made, and we'll see if we can come to an agreement. And you know what? To be honest, I have got nothing to lose and potentially everything to gain by changing my mind if you're right. Yeah? Whereas the situation you're in, you're arguing from a position where you've got nothing to gain and everything to lose. So
what makes you think that?
I have absolutely zero problem with changing my mind. And if you give me some evidence today, right, and I think, you know what, that makes sense, and I'll just accept it because I am forced to believe what the evidence presents to me.
Right, okay. Well, we may be starting from wrong angles here. As far as I'm concerned, I've taken the time out to have a discussion with you in relation to the question. Now you have very nicely put it to me that, look, I want you to give me the reasons for why you think it is the Book of God. And the reasoning behind what you are saying is, well, I have nothing to lose, you have everything to lose. I'm thinking, here we go again, I am not bothered. At the end of the day, sorry Pete, if I can just finish. Yeah, I am not really bothered whether you gain anything or you lose anything. To me, I was under the impression, and I hope I still am, and it is going to be so, that this discussion was going to be an objective discussion. Okay? Looking at the question, and here is a strange aspect which I am still trying to get over, that in any given discussion where a question is posed, what are known as the ground rules are laid out so that we have a basis or a foundation on which to build. Now, here you are telling me, it seems it is that familiar reasoning, okay, of the onus is on you to prove it, I'm just going to sit and listen, and then I will agree or disagree with what you have to say. No, that's not what the question is about. Sorry, Pete. The question... Sorry, Pete.
Let me correct you. Please let me correct you.
Please do.
At the very beginning, I said the onus of proof is on you. However, after you've made your attempt at giving me the evidence that it is divine, I said I won't just take the neutral position. I will actually make positive arguments that it is man-made. I did say at the beginning, so if you've got that impression,
actually, Pete, when you said that, I actually raised it. Okay, and you may not be realizing this because you are probably accustomed to talking like that. Okay, but there is an interchangeability taking place here. One is, the question is the Quran man-made? And you are turning it to, is it divine, according to me? These are two separate questions. Either we agree that, look, the question was, is the Quran man-made? On that basis, I am prepared to discuss. And on that basis, I am first, and I think it is a reasonable request, that we establish the criteria independently, yes, collect between me and you, that is, Okay, we need to establish the criteria we are going to use to determine whether it is man-made. And not what you are suggesting, that I am making this claim that it is, whether it is divine or not. I think there is a difference, don't you think?
Well, come on, I think it's pretty obvious what the discussion is about. I'm of a position where I think the Qur'an is man-made. You're of a position where you think that the author of the Qur'an was the creator of the universe, and what we're doing is we're having a discussion so that you can put your side across and I can put my side across, and we could have really called it just the Qur'an. It doesn't matter what we called it. The point is I'm trying to justify my position, you're trying to justify your position. I don't want to waste time.
No, do I accept you? I'm sorry, Pete. I don't want to waste my...
What we should talk about, let's just put forward your views, why you believe them, and we'll discuss them.
Pete, you see, I'm so glad you said that. And I agree with you. I don't want to waste my time also. But I do think that you need to adopt a stance of fairness when discussing a subject matter. You see, we talked about, and I'm going to be quite insistent on this. When we ask the question, is the Quran man-made? You just said now that you have your reasons for why you think the Quran is man-made, correct? Yes, you said that. So, I automatically am correct in wanting to know what the criteria is that we are going to adopt to determine it is man-made. So what is the criteria you adopted so we can both use it?
That's fine, but I was just letting you go first, that's all.
No, I think you are changing that now. What is the criteria, Pete? Let's just get on with it.
I've changed.
No.
You've just...
I'm saying, Pete, let's just get on with the criteria, respectfully.
If you don't want to present any more evidence to me, but let me, just without interrupting, let me just say, right, that we just spent about an hour of you trying to put forward a case. Doesn't matter what the outcome of it was, you put forward a case, and the fact that you're only, in fairness, we both put sides of our arguments to an equal amount of time, you've only got another 30 minutes anyway, and then I am absolutely perfectly happy to go on for an hour and a half if I actually need that long. Or, I'm perfectly willing to go on now, but if you want to end your side of the argument for the Quran being of extra superhuman origin, let's put it that way. If you want to, you've got now putting forward your argument on the superhuman origin of the Quran, that's fine, but I think that it's a bit of an injustice because you've only made one argument, in my opinion was a good one. You want the opportunity to put forward some points of the superhuman origin of the Quran before I go on and put forward my arguments that it's not. Do you want that opportunity or not?
Pete, I respect your attempts, okay? But I did say, and I'm going to repeat again, and I did say I'm going to insist on this because I think this is going one-sided. As you are entitled to an opinion, so am I. You see, I did say, and I in any discussion that I've had with anybody, I've always made it very clear that, look, if there was a particular question you had in mind, then that is the question we should be addressing. If you are going to try and now change it in so many ways, I will not do that. I will say, right, listen, it would have been easier for you to say, I tell you what, Shabir, the subject matter should be, is the Quran God's word? We would know where we stand. If I can, Pete, don't get so frustrated. Listen to me. Yes. I do apologize if it came across that way. But Pete, one second. Pete, can I finish? Pete, the question was asked, and when the email came through about what the discussion should be, my colleague here, Muhammad Ali, asked me, yes, and he did say, shall we make it X, Y, or Z? And I said to him, no, leave it to Pete, okay? Let him choose the title. Now, the title was chosen, we accepted, we really readily agreed, okay? And all I am saying, and I think it's a reasonable request, Pete, that if you are saying you know why you think it is man-made, okay, I'm merely saying, excellent. What criteria did you adopt? So that, if I can just finish, what criteria so that we can determine whether it is man-made, not where you are suggesting, why do you think it is divine? I'm thinking, no, wait a minute, the question is the Quran man-made? So what objective criteria can me and you agree on right now so that we can proceed? Otherwise it is a worthless exercise.
Okay, so earlier on did you not say that the Quran was written down by humans after it was revealed from a superhuman source? In fact, you said the creator of the universe, you said the creator revealed it to a person and it was then written down. Did you or did you not state that that's your position earlier on today?
I made it very clear in the context of memorization, in the context of how it came to us. I did make it very clear that it was revealed to a man, yes, and it was formulated in book form. Yes, I did. I did say that. If I can just finish, I did say that. But you've asked me, let me finish answering and then you can come back to me. Okay, Pete.
Talk for a long time.
Oh, okay.
I'll say something, let me finish. And if we want to put it into objective fact, I am perfectly happy to make a marker of how long you spoke for, how long I spoke for, by analysing the video later. But I'm telling you now that you've talked for a long time, and then you say, let me finish. Right? Let's get this clear. When we decided the subject, right, is the Quran man-made, I think it's perfectly obvious that my position as an atheist is, yes it is. Your position as a Muslim is, no it is not. Right? I asked you this right at the beginning of the debate, is this your position? Right? And you said, yes, it was done by the creator and it was revealed to a human. Right? We established right at the beginning what your position is. And then I've said, why do you think that? And then you spent an hour with the same argument telling me why you think that's it. Well, no, not even that. By saying it's unique, it's got to make you wonder why. So basically you're expecting the question. Now, it's clear, right, that right from the beginning, right at the beginning, I said, you're going to argue that it is from God. I'm not just going to sit here and say I do not accept what you say. Afterwards, I am going to give you clear arguments, positive argument, that why I think it is man-made. Now, if you're happy, now, we know each other's positions. Don't pretend that it's a debate that we're going to come on, I'm going to prove it's man-made, and you're just going to sit there and say, no, I disagree. We were both going to put our positions forward. That's the whole point of it. You were going to put forward your belief that it's divinely ordained. I was going to put forward my position that it was man-made. If you are now happy to sit back and listen to my arguments, I'm fine, let's go ahead. I can do that for you now. But if you want to try to convince people that the Quran is of a superhuman origin, which is your purpose for being here, then if you're just going to give up after that argument, I mean, that's up to you. I'm just saying to you, I'm making it clear that if you say to me now, off you go, then you're handing it over to me and I'm going to now present my case. I'm going to be doing most of the talking, okay, to present my case, and you're going to accept that. And, you know, if you're willing to give up that quickly, that's up to you. I'm just making sure that you know what you're doing when you say, okay, Pete, you take over.
Can I respond?
Yeah, go on.
Right, Pete. You see, I mean, there must be a problem here in understanding or hearing. Whichever way, the very reason, and I made it clear again and again, the reason I used that test that we took nearly 55 minutes for to determine it was because I started off clearly with the request for a criteria. Yes? Now you are telling me that you know what your position is, I know what my position is, and don't tell me anything. Actually, no, you are absolutely wrong. What you must not try and do, which I suppose humans tend to do, is to determine what I may have been thinking. I haven't done that with you. Okay? And I would respectfully request that you don't do that with me, because as far as I was concerned, it's a reasonable question you have brought up. Yes? Is the Quran man-made? I'm saying, okay, no problem. But now here is the issue, and it's a simple one. The criteria will determine whether it was man-made or not. And all I am saying to you, Pete, come on. You are trying to reverse it. You are trying to say, why, if I can just finish, why is it divine? I'm saying, wait a minute, the question was, is it man-made? Now, I appreciate that there might be a nuanced argument here, but the point here is this. Was the subject matter, is the Quran man-made? Yes. Okay. I'm asking, and it's a reasonable request, Pete, and since you have already confirmed for me that you know why you think it is man-made, then it is simple. Tell me what the criteria was that you used, so that I can, if I can, once again, sorry, so that I know where we stand. What's wrong with that?
No, that's fine. I will.
Give me the criteria, please. Let's start. Excellent.
I just want to point out that what you seem to be doing now is changing the goalposts.
Oh dear.
We are only, no, listen, we are only discussing my argument and not your argument. That is what you seem to be doing now. Despite the fact that earlier on in this discussion, you agreed with me that the onus of proof is on you, and that books, we should always assume that they're man-made, right, and that the onus is on you to prove otherwise. You agreed with that from the start. You told me that the Quran is not man-made, as in authored by a man. You agreed that the onus of proof on you, and then I asked, why do you think that it is divinely authored? Why do you think that is the case? And you presented your argument, that's fine, and now I believe that it's man-made, right? And I can now give you positive arguments for that. If you're happy that you have finished putting across your argument, are you happy that you finished putting across your argument? Don't tell me that you don't have to.
Pete.
Don't tell me that you don't have to, because that's rubbish.
Pete, respectfully.
That we were putting forward opposite
Pete,
because you said it at the beginning of the discussion.
Pete, I appreciate your attempt here, but I must, Pete, I must respectfully remind you. It seems to me at least, there seems to be selective hearing here. Okay, let's make this clear. I said from the start, well, when a question like this is asked, a simple criteria I use. But now we have moved on. We have moved on, Pete. We have moved on. And this way I can't understand it. Yes? Is the Quran man-made is the question. I am saying, and I can't see what is so unreasonable about this request that I've made. What is the... Pete, can I just finish? Can I just finish?
Well, let's stop discussing the discussion and then I'll put forward my case.
No, first the criteria, please, Pete.
Well, I'm going to explain the criteria
now.
Oh,
please do. Go ahead.
Right. So, if the Quran was revealed by a divine source, which I believe is your position, is that correct? Is that your position?
Are you going to provide me the criteria first before asking me what I believe, Pete? I am not in the... Pete, I must just make one thing very clear. I am not in the habit of saying what I believe and what I do not. I would rather we discuss the evidence and then establish evidentially what it is we are trying to determine. Pete, you can tell me, do I believe in red cheese? Do I believe in this, that and the other? It is not conducive to the discussion. Just stick with the criteria, Pete, first. Tell me the criteria, Pete.
I'll go ahead without asking you any questions.
Pete, excellent. Criteria first, objective criteria.
Right. From my understanding of the Quran, right, in chapter 20, verse 52, it says, its knowledge, the Quran's knowledge, is with my Lord, in a record, not errs my Lord, and not forgets. Right? The Quran itself is saying that the Creator, God, the Lord, right, knows all of what's happened, doesn't make errors about what happened, and he doesn't forget what happened. Right? It also says, I know that's what I'm going to say. So basically it says it's an accurate record, there's no errors in it, it doesn't forget. Right? Now, if we look through the Quran, right, example, the point where Adam was supposed to be made, or the point where Moses threw down his staff and it became a snake, or whatever, things that we know happened just that once. And then what we do is we look at the accounts of what happened then. If we analyse what people said, right, if everything that happened is in an accurate record that God neither gets wrong and doesn't forget, then what I would expect would be that every account of what people said would be absolutely identical. Because if it's not identical, it's either an error or a lie. Okay? You with me so far? Are we in agreement so far? Or, no, I want to ask you for
Pete. You see, I mean, this is going to sound very strange, but it might be something you're not accustomed to. Okay? I asked for a criteria. Okay? One second, Pete. I asked for an objective criteria, and you jump to a surah in the Qur'an. So are we saying now that we are going to use the criteria of the Qur'an?
Yes.
Okay.
So Quran itself makes a claim. It makes two claims, first of all. The first one is in chapter 4, verse 82. It says, will they not then ponder on the Quran? If it had been from other than Allah, then they would have found therein many errors, much incongruity. Right?
Sorry, Pete. So you are telling me that we really are using the Quran as the criteria to determine whether the Quran is man-made.
Yeah,
correct?
Because
excellent. I'm good with that.
Let me finish.
Oh, right. Okay.
The Quran itself is saying that it's a book from God, and the Quran itself is saying here is an objective test you can apply, which will prove that this is not a book from God. Do you agree that that's what the Quran says?
Which objective test? Surah 4 verse 82.
That's chapter 4, 82.
Chapter 4 verse 82. I agree, but I'm just glad that you are using the Quran as a criteria, which is good.
I'm testing by its own criteria.
Excellent.
It puts forward a claim, and I'm going to use objective approach to its claim, using itself as evidence to prove that it doesn't meet its own claim.
Fine. So the criteria as to whether the Quran is man-made is using the Quran itself.
Okay?
Yes?
And this is the criteria that the Quran defines.
Excellent. Okay.
Now, it says that knowledge of everything is with God. It's in a record, and God doesn't make any errors. So, if we look at specific events...
Sorry, can I just ask you, Pete, which record is it talking about? Where?
The record of everything.
Where is that record?
Do you want me to read the... do you want me to actually look up the entire verse and tell you what it is or not?
Please do. Just go to it.
Okay.
Surah 20, ayah 52.
Verse 20, 52.
Chapter 20, verse 52.
Yeah. So
just go to it.
52. Right. The Pharaoh said, what is the case of the former generations? So the Pharaoh is saying what happened in history. And Moses says, the knowledge, i.e. of history, is with my Lord in a record. Now I'm not saying that record's the Quran, right? But that effectively the Lord knows what that history is, right? And he doesn't forget any of it.
Sorry, Pete. I must apologize here. You are reading from 2052, did you say?
Yeah, but if you look at the verse...
One second, can you just pass me? I'm just pulling up the Quran, if you don't mind. Right? Surah 20.
We'll start at 20 colon 51.
20,
Surah 20,
52.
because that'll give you the context as to what the next statement means.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You read verses 51 and 52.
Well, I'll start at 49. It said, who then is the Lord of you both, O Moses?
Yeah, that's fine.
Verse 50, he said, he said, our Lord is he who gave to everything its nature, then guided it aright. I'm using Muhammad Picktol's translation here. Verse 52, he said, The knowledge of it is with my Lord in a record. My Lord neither errs nor forgets. Yeah?
But are we in agreement that the Qur'an is claiming that God, the author of, or claims is the author of the Qur'an, knows all of the history, doesn't make any errors about the history, and doesn't forget any of the history?
The verse says, the knowledge of it is with my Lord in a record. My Lord neither errs nor forgets.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It means that God knows everything, he doesn't get stuff wrong, and he doesn't forget it.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Good. Right. So, let's have a look. Now, I'm assuming that Allah is an honest God and he doesn't lie. Let me just find. We'll start with the creation of Adam. Right. What I've done is I went through the Quran, and as you know, it's kind of there's bits of story here and there. You know, at one point you'll be talking about it, and then at another point he'll be talking about what happened just before it, and another point he'll say the same bit of story again. And so what I've done is I've gone through the Quran and I've taken a chronological list of the events in certain scenarios. For example, the creation of Adam. I've put them into a chronological order so that I can compare them. Now,
sorry, Pete, how did you put them in chronological order?
Not chronological order of when they were revealed.
No. What?
Chronological order of the story.
How did you determine that?
Well, for example, Moses would have to walk up to the Pharaoh before the Pharaoh said, "Who are you?" That's the made-up example.
So no. Why? No, Pete, it is important. It is important because Pete, it is important. You have made a chronological order. How did you determine that order to be correct?
Well, because for Moses to say he is the Lord of the world who created everything, he's answering the question in the verse before that says, "Who is your Lord?"
So you have actually determined the chronology according to your understanding.
What I've done is I've looked at the verses in the Quran which tell the story in a specific order. Yeah. Moses went to see the Pharaoh. He told him something. Pharaoh said no. Moses said he showed him his staff. You know, whatever the story is, it's in the Quran in the order. It's telling the story. Yeah. And then somewhere else it'll tell the same story.
Okay.
And somewhere else it'll tell the same story in the same order.
I don't mind that. I was just concerned when you said chronological order.
Yeah, well, it is chronological.
How did you determine that?
It is the chronological order because that's the story is being told in a chronological order. That's how you tell stories.
Is it in a chronological order? Sorry, Pete. How did you
Are you going to listen to my answer?
I do apologize. No, I'm wanting to know because you are making a claim. I just want clarification on the claim. You made a chronological order, yeah? Or you've determined it to be a chronological order? Or are you saying something else now?
No. Let me clarify.
Please do. Please do.
Forget the word chronological because you might be confusing that with in what order verses were revealed and so on, right? What I have done is, when the Quran details a story of the past, something that's supposed to have happened, it lays out the events in a specific order, yeah? And the specific order is, I don't know, Moses went to see the Pharaoh didn't believe he was a messenger of God. The Pharaoh told his magicians to throw down the staffs. Moses threw his staff down and he met their snakes, you know, stuff like this. Moses can't throw his staff down and eat the serpents of the magicians until after the magicians have thrown the staff down. And that's exactly the way it reads in the Quran. Verse for verse, one after another. I haven't split up verses and rearranged them. I've done nothing like that. I've just simply looked at a set of verses in their whole context where the story is told. Verse A, B, C, D. This happened, this happened, this happened. this happened, right? And then I'll write that down. And then elsewhere in the Qur'an, where the same story is told, in the same order, right? A, B, C, D happened. I will put that next to it. And then basically what I can do is I can compare the consistency of the stories. Okay? Hopefully you're with me, because that's quite simple. Right?
No, it is actually quite simple, but I just wanted to know whether it is of your own making, that's all. Sorry?
Copied the exact words, word for word, order of the verses, and compared them side by side. Nothing more than that.
Okay,
right?
Fair enough.
In the creation of Allah, in the creation of Adam by Allah, Allah says, in 15 to 28, Allah says,
I'm sorry, can you tell me which chapter and which verse you are using, please?
15,
Sorry?
colon, 8.
15:8.
15,
Yeah?
28.
28, sorry. I do apologize. 15:28. Can I just have the Quran, please? Yes?
Yeah?
Yeah.
It says, the words that Allah used to announce his creation of Adam to the angels was, I will create a human being out of clay from black mud altered.
Yes.
Yeah? So when I fashioned him and breathed into him my spirit, then fall down to him prostrating. Yeah?
Yeah.
So now we look at 38.71. Tell me when you've got it.
Yeah.
Indeed, I am going to create a human being from clay. So when I have portioned him and breathed into my spirit, then fall down to him prostrating. It's word for word identical, which is exactly what I would expect. Now what I did is, when I looked at this stuff in English, the words that we used were different. However, I looked in Arabic, and the phoneme for phoneme, they were actually identical. Right? And it was the interpreter's interpretation that varied throughout the Quran. Yeah?
Yeah.
So if God says, at the point he announced to the angels he was going to make Adam, he said, I said A, B, C. Yeah? Then later, when he explains what he said to the angels, I expect he would say, I said A, B, C, because one, he has a full record of what happened. Two, he makes no errors. And the difference in this is, in the first account, in 15.28, he tells them it's all word for word identical, except in the one account he says, I'm going to make him from black mud altered. And in the second account it says, he told them he was going to make them from clay. He then goes on, he announces that Adam will be a vice regent on earth. Adam was taught the
Okay, sorry,
Pete.
Pete. Can you please tell us which verses you are using?
Yeah, I told you the two.
No, you just moved on to...
Yeah, these bits are here when I've got no problem, basically. These bits are, when I say, give a simple point like, Allah created Adam and announced he'll become a vice regent on earth, that's either because there's one verse on it or lots of verses and they're all the same and I have no objection to, so I'm just giving you a context of where in the story we are, okay? So I'm not actually making a point on those, an argument on those points.
Right, can I just ask you, Pete, can I just ask you, in chapter 15, verse 28 and 29, and chapter 38, verse 71, you looked at the Arabic, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, what are the words in Arabic for both of them?
Right, okay, they both start with Inni Khalikun Bashamin, right?
15.
Then in
28.
1528.
No, Pete, I mean, I don't want you I just want you to tell me the words where you have picked up black mud and mud. 15, 28 and 29 and 38, 71.
Right, so...
What do they say?
Masnunin.
Sorry?
Hamain Masnun.
What?
Hamain masnunin.
Okay, and the other one?
So what that actually, if I include the other words, it says min salsalin min hamain masnunin. So that would be clay from black mud altered. So I've only given you black mud altered there. So it's actually the full phrase is min from salsalin clay, min from hamain masnunin black mud altered.
And the other one?
Do you want me to wait?
And the other one, 3871.
Carry on.
What does 3871 say?
3871.
Yes.
Right? He made him from teeny. So
Sorry, what does it say?
What we've got is the words salsalin min hamain masnunin.
Yes.
It's now been changed to just a single word, teeny.
Which verse are you reading from here?
This is the second verse that I quoted.
Verse 71 or 38? And what does it say?
You want the whole verse or just change?
No, just that one.
Just the change?
Yes.
The change, the actual. It's all been replaced with a single word, teeny.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So in one account, God is saying that he said to them, I'll make a human out of clay from black mud altered. Then another time in the Qur'an where it says, God says, and then I said to them, I'm going to make a human from clay. He doesn't say from clay from out of black mud altered. He just says from clay. So if a book is written by a human over a long period of time, as we discussed earlier, people do tend to recollect things slightly differently because we're humans. And when you tell the same story, you won't tell it word for word identical, it'll be slightly different. And all of this is acceptable, except that when let's assume it is Allah, the author, I'll just stay in that context for now. When Allah says, at this point, alright?
Yeah, go on.
And at the same point, I said this, and they're almost identical, except not word for word.
Uh-huh.
That is a sign of a human misremembering what they said,
Hmm.
and is in contradiction to what the Qur'an says about itself, which is that Allah doesn't make errors, and he doesn't forget anything.
Right, excellent. Can I just ask you, Pete, what is the error?
The error is that it's a contradiction.
How?
Allah says, the Quran says that when Allah announced to the angels what he was going to do,
Yes.
he said these words.
Yes.
Another point in the Quran, right, when Muhammad was saying these words, he said, and then Allah went to them and he said, these words are missing. He didn't say the same words.
So sorry, how is it a contradiction? How is it a contradiction, Pete?
I can prove it. I can demonstrate it very easily.
Go on.
I'll say a short sentence to you. Ready? The cat sat on the mat. Yeah? Now,
Yeah.
the question I'm going to ask you now, is it true or false that I just said the cat sat upon the mat?
You said the cat sat on the mat. Yes, you said
I didn't
that.
say the cat sat upon the mat.
You said the cat sat on the mat.
It means the same thing.
Mhm.
Yeah? However, when you say that something was said, you are saying what was actually said. You're not saying what was meant, as in the rest of the story.
Oh, okay.
Parts that aren't speech in the rest of the story.
Yeah, sorry, Pete. Sorry, Pete.
I said the cat sat on the mat.
Right, okay, I understand.
I said the cat sat upon the mat. That is incorrect. Both statements are not true.
Right, Pete. What is look?
Story.
Sorry, can we just go on what you said, Pete? Can we just finish what you said? You see, if you said the cat sat on the mat, and you said the cat sat upon the mat, yes? What's the contradiction?
Well, did I say on or upon?
No. I'm saying, because you said, if I said the cat sat on the mat and the cat sat upon the mat. Yes?
Yeah.
I'm saying, what's the contradiction?
Right, the contradiction is, right, the meaning of what was said is the same. However, were different. I meant that the cat sat upon the mat. I didn't actually say the cat sat upon the mat. I said the cat sat on the mat.
Right. Okay, Pete. Can we? Yeah, Pete. Can we respectfully accept the definition of contradiction that we are using here? You don't mind pulling up a dictionary, do you?
No, contradiction is two facts that aren't in agreement.
Are what? Are opposed?
Aren't in agreement.
Aren't in agreement.
Yeah, are opposed. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So please, in that context, how are these two in contradiction? The verse, chapter 15, verse 28 and 38:71.
The first one says that he said the words, "I will make them." I will make him. Let me just go up to that. I don't quote it wrong. The first time he says the fact that we are being delivered is, as words were, I will create a human out of clay from black mud altered. So when I fashioned him prostrate. In another account, he says the fact that he's being delivered is the words that were spoken at that point in time were, I am going to create a human being from clay.
Hmm.
So
what's the
did he say I was going to do it from black mud altered, or did he say I was going to do it from clay?
What's the contradiction though?
Well, which one did he say?
If he said both?
He said both.
Yes. What's the difference?
I'll accept that answer. So he said two things. He said, went to the angels and said, indeed, I will create a human being out of clay from black mud altered. So when I fashioned him and breathed into him my spirit, then all fall down and be prostrated.
Yeah.
And then, at some other point, he said, indeed, I am going to create a human being from clay. So when I have proportioned him and breathed into him my spirit, then fall down to him prostrated.
Right.
He said both. No?
Okay.
That's what you want.
Now, again, I'm saying to you, it talks about here, the second one says he is going to create a mortal out of mud. Am I correct?
The first one says he's going to make it from clay.
I'm talking about the second one. Does it talk about out of mud?
It says he's going to make him out of clay.
Yes. The first one says out of what?
Clay from black mud altered.
I'm just going to it. I am creating a mortal out of potter's clay of black mud altered. Yeah?
Yep.
Do we agree? The words that you are talking about, is it teen in the second one?
Yep.
And what was the first one?
Salin min hamain masnun.
Right, now it's there, yeah? Hamaim masnunin, okay? I'm asking you, in the Arabic, are both the same words used?
Are the same words, yeah. Up to the point that the discrepancy occurs.
No. Respect. Pete, it's only a discrepancy if you can establish it to be so. If two different words have been used, okay?
Yeah.
To mean, if I can just say, you use the cat sat on the mat, the cat sat upon the mat, yeah? If two different words have been used in that original language, how is it a contradiction?
It's two different words at the time of the event, you mean?
No, I didn't say that. If you heard me carefully, I said,
yeah.
Just like you said, the cat sat on the mat, the cat sat upon the mat. Yes? There is no contradiction there. Yeah?
No, there's no contradiction.
Yeah. If I can just finish. Now, I am saying to you, if two different words have been used in two places, yes, talking about the same subject matter, how is it a contradiction?
As I said.
No. Pete, listen to my question again, respectfully. Two different words are used, okay, for a particular issue. How can there be a contradiction?
Right. The words that you just said, right?
No, you said these words.
Now listen.
I'm asking.
How can there be a contradiction? Right? said, how can there be a contradiction, right? What you've just said, right, is in a record at Google, right? When Google records these videos, it does not make errors and it does not forget, okay? This is the statement that I'm making to you. The video will be kept and there will be no errors in it, right? So at that exact point, if we want to know what you said, how can there be a contradiction, right? Those are the exact words that he used. Now, if I was to say, at that point, you said, how is that a contradiction? When we compare it to the record, you didn't say, how is that a contradiction? You said, how can there be a contradiction? So if I say that you said, how is that a contradiction? If we look at the unaltered, non-erring record, we will say that what you actually said was, how can there be a contradiction? We can accept this from me because I'm a human, yeah? I do err, I do make errors, and I don't have some kind of infallible record. Allah, according to the Qur'an, does not make errors and has an infallible record, and yet the record, his account of the record, varies throughout the Qur'an, which is what I would expect from a human and not a divine, flawless entity.
Okay, Pete, I think I appreciate that there is a particular way you want to think about things, but I did ask a simple question for which you never gave the answer and you just went off a tangent. I asked, and I will ask again, the two verses, ayahs that you used to try and prove your point, I asked you, are two different words used in the two accounts? The answer is yes. So now I'm asking you again, Pete, if two different words are used, how can that be a contradiction? You do know what a contradiction is. We accepted that, didn't we?
Yeah, right.
Yes.
So,
now, would a contradiction...
Let me finish,
oh,
please.
Please do, of course.
I'm understanding your question because I don't want to answer the wrong question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah?
Fair enough.
My argument is, right, that two different words were used. Therefore, one of those two statements cannot be true.
Why?
And you're saying to me, from what I can work out, is if two different words were used, how is that a contradiction? Is that what you're asking me?
Pete, like I said, I think the problem here is selective hearing. And you are right that the Google record will show. You said these two contradict each other. Whereupon I picked up on the point and I said, do we need to establish the definition of a contradiction? Now, I am saying to you, okay, if two words are used, okay, and two different words are used in two different contexts, talking about the same issue, yes, now it's a simple question again. If I can just finish, if two different words are used, how is it a contradiction?
This is why I wanted to ensure that I knew what your argument is.
Oh, really?
Because I wanted to make clear that you're saying they were both things that were both spoken but at different times. Therefore, it's not a contradiction because they mean the same thing. In which case, I agree. If they were spoken at two different times, yeah, and there were variations on each other, then both were spoken and both sentences can be true. And in those circumstances, there can be no error. I agree with you. Is that the point?
I didn't say that. Again, Pete, you seem to be hearing something else and saying something else. I'll say it again. If two different words are used, yeah, for the same issue,
yeah,
how can there be a contradiction?
No, they're not. If two different words are used, right, at the exact same point, right, and it is stated that this word was said at this point, yeah, and then somewhere else it says no, this word was used at that point, then they are contradictions. It's not. It may have the same meaning, but it is not was said. The contradiction is not what was meant by the words. That's what humans portray. When the actual words differ, right? That's when there is a contradiction.
Then you see the problem here I'm seeing, respectfully, Pete, is going to be a difficult one this for you, okay? When you are looking at a particular issue, yes, you need ground rules, which is what I had protested about at the start, okay? Now here we have got an instance where you have pulled up two verses for which, according to your standard, whichever it is, you think that there seems to be an error or there's forgetfulness. Yes? You use the word contradiction, which I picked up on. Sorry?
Or a deliberate lie.
Or a deliberate lie. Yeah, you're entitled to that also. You're entitled to that. Again, but can you see how important it is to actually determine things evidentially? Now, one of the issues I'm finding here is this, that you read the verses, yeah, and I'm going to do the same again. Okay? It says, and when your Lord said to the angels, lo, I'm creating a mortal out of potter's clay of black mud altered. What is mud altered?
No, but you...
Again, look, I'm trying to understand, Pete, respectfully, I'm trying to understand your point of view of how you think it is an error, okay, or a contradiction, or forgetfulness, and I want to know where there is a verse telling you something which you have chosen, but respectfully, not the full verse itself, you have picked on something. I just want to know where it says black mud altered. Yes? The other one, sorry, Pete, the other one, yeah, the other one, no, I'm just telling you, because the verse says, when I have fashioned him and breathed into him of my spirit, number 71. Before that it says, behold, thy Lord said to the angels, I am about to create man from clay. Yes? Now when it uses the, Pete, yeah, Pete, if it says clay, yeah, is there a difference between clay and mud?
Right. So now...
No, I'm asking to understand better. Please do. Please do.
I'm answering it.
Please do.
If I say word A was used, and then another time I'll say that exact point word B was used, right? Whether they mean the same or not, they can't both be true, because a word was used or a word was not used. And don't interrupt, right? Not so long ago I bought a USB stick that was an audio recorder, and it cost me £3.49 from China, right? It records at 44,100 kilohertz, hertz, right? So that's how many times it's doing. Not only does it record the exact words I say, it records the exact tone in which I said them. It records the clicks of my vocal cords as it vibrates the air. It records the noise of the car that went past and the pitch and frequency of the dog barking down the road. And every time I play that back, right, that is exactly the same. Every single time, the data that it gives me is exactly the same, right? That is the fact being presented. In the Qur'an, what's happening is it's saying, here are the words that were said, not what the words meant, the words, the very words that were said. And then later it says, these are the very words that were said, but they're different, right? Now if my £3.49 audio recorder can get it right over a period of years to the point of individual clicks, right? Why can't Allah get a whole word exactly the same?
Excellent, Peter, excellent. And that is why I was so adamant and you wanted to dismiss, and I'm coming back to it. You see, what you have just said, okay? You gave me a lengthy explanation of how this USB stick worked, etc., which is understandable, okay? That's knowledge, yeah, you are talking about. But you then somehow, oddly speaking, I have to say, you are equating that to how you think the Quran should be. Now, I'm going according to what you said. Chapter 20, verse 52, okay? Can you remember what you said about that verse? Yeah?
Which number?
The one that you had said.
15.
Chapter 20, verse 52. What did that say?
15:28.
No, chapter 20, verse 52.
About God not fearing.
What did it say? Because you used that as a basis for the verses you then repeated.
Yeah.
What did it say?
I'll tell you what, I'm glad YouTube is recording this word for word accurately.
Yes.
Right, it's
Amazing what the Creator has given the brain of a human to be able to do.
Then, its knowledge is with my Lord in a record, not hers, my Lord, and not forgets.
Right. Now how, because you use the two verses after, how are they going against this particular verse that you used as a criteria?
Because it says, right, because this verse is in context of what happened in history. If you read the verse before, are we in agreement with that? Pharaoh says, you know, what do you know about history? And Moses says, it's all with my Lord, in record, he doesn't get things wrong, and he doesn't forget anything.
Oh, thank you. Yeah?
Are we in agreement with what those two verses are actually implying?
Right, let's make it clear. Then, according to the translation here, which you are also reading, the knowledge, he said, the knowledge thereof is with my Lord in a record. Knowledge about what exactly?
Well, as I said, if you look at the previous verse,
Right, let's have a look at it.
It says, what is the case of the generations before us?
Right, excellent. Which generations is it talking about?
The previous to Pharaoh.
Which ones?
Well, it's just basically asking him about what's happened, what the story
No, Pete. You see, I appreciate what you are saying, you are right. The problem here is this, that if it's talking about previous generations, yes, which generations is it talking about? How are we going to establish that?
Well, no, we're not talking about
No. I'm just giving you an example of how you can very easily misunderstand or misconstrue things. Yeah? Sorry, Pete. If it is talking about previous generations, and in that context, we are told then that for all this that you are asking about, the generations, yes, who knows about them? The Creator does, in a record. And the Creator neither errs nor forgets. Okay? That's what it says. Yeah? Now I am saying, wait a minute, the verses that you have used, and I'm just using this as an example of the previous generations, obviously we need to know, yes, what the Creator is talking about in terms of these previous generations. Yeah? Now, you have used two verses, and I'm coming back to them, based on 2052. Yeah? 2052, according to your understanding, is talking about history. Yes? And that is why I said, what previous generations is it talking about? Okay? The point here is the verse that you used to determine the potential problem in the other two verses that you raised. I am asking, how do they equate with this verse in chapter 20, verse 52?
Right. So, let me try to understand what your contention is so that I can explain it. That I can explain the detail that I've not put across properly.
Yeah, sure.
So far, are we in agreement that what those verses are saying is that God knows all about history? It's in some kind of a record. He doesn't make any errors, and he never forgets any of it.
Of what?
Of whatever it is he's talking about.
Right. Actually, yeah. What? Yeah, Pete. You need to complete the verse itself. Sorry, Pete. The verse is saying.
Question mark so we can see.
Sorry. Yeah, Pete. We don't talk over each other. It says that what is the state of the generations of old? Yeah, he said, the knowledge thereof is with my Lord in a record. My Lord neither errs nor forgets. Yeah? So far so good? Yeah, right. In the context of that verse, it is a reasonable question to ask. We would need to know absolutely everything about these previous generations to determine whether the Creator erred or not.
Yeah.
Correct? Correct. Right. Now, what do we... Now, just... sorry, Pete, on that basis, I'm asking, what's the difference between clay and mud?
Right. So now, back to the point. We would have to know absolutely everything that happened. Word for word, let's say video recorded kind of level, we know exactly who did what was said, which words were used. Unless, of course, the Qur'an itself, which is supposed to be the unaltered words of this God, says, this is what was said, and then somewhere else says, no, this is what was said. Right? Now, there is the point that I can quite easily concede that it doesn't say specifically what events they're talking about. Yeah? It doesn't say that they're talking about Adam, the creation of Adam. It could be talking about Noah or something else. So I'm trying to understand, is that your argument, that we don't know what he's referring to?
Actually, Pete, I'll make it clear to you. I've asked a simple question yet again. What's the difference between clay and mud? Can we just clarify that first?
Shabir, let me say, repeating the same question doesn't help.
Pete, it's a simple question.
What I'm asking you is because, right, I need to understand, right, by what criteria you're judging them to be the same or different. Now, I have given you mine. I went into great detail about a £3.49 recording device from China. I went into great detail to explain how you can tell things different. Yeah?
Pete,
if you were to give me an audio recording where you clicked out a tenth of a second, I would be able to show you not only that it had been cut out, but exactly where.
Excellent.
Right?
Pete.
Now,
Sorry, I thought you had finished. Apologies.
Let me finish.
Yeah, sure.
Right? So, what I've done is I've said the Qur'an is claiming that this infallible author has a record of everything, makes no mistakes, and doesn't forget anything. Yeah? So my criteria for this is, if that is true, then when he states an absolute fact about the words that were uttered at a specific point in time, when that story is told again elsewhere in the Quran and says, at this specific point in time, these were the words that were uttered, those two things, just like the audio recording, should be absolutely identical. Because Allah could even tell you how much the dog barked and stuff, just like my audio recording could. Yeah? Allah would be able to do that as well. I'm saying that at the point he says this was said, and at the exact same point he says these were the words that said, they should be click for click, audio vibration through the air, perfectly identical. Yeah?
Okay. So, no problem at all, Pete. No problem.
If a single syllable is different, then they are not the same.
Okay, no problem at all, Pete. You are absolutely correct. Hence my question, which I'm going to have to ask again. If two different words are used, what kind of syllables should be exactly the same?
Every syllable.
How Pete, whoa. If there are two different words, how are you going to expect the syllables to be the same?
Right, now this is the...
No, please. I mean, Pete, I must respectfully ask, because every time I'm asking you a question, Pete, you fly off. I mean, like I said, I asked, what's the difference between clay and mud? You went off. Now I'm asking Pete, sorry, Pete, I'm asking you again. If there are two different words, Pete, Pete, I'll hear you, you hear me. If there are two different words, how can you have the same exact, according to your words, syllables, bearing in mind now that you first wanted to dismiss what you thought was only my criteria in terms of the memory test that I gave, and now you are telling me what you think the Creator ought to have done. And that again, if I can, sorry Pete, if I can just finish. I may be misunderstanding. But it comes to what I said at the start, Pete, that logic dictates that if there is a Creator, the Creator will determine for me what the Creator is going to say, rather than me trying to be an expert in determining how the Creator ought to have revealed things. I mean, it's so basic common sense, respectfully, Pete.
Yeah, so let's stop going off onto the hypothetical what constitutes.
No, it's logical. It's not hypothetical.
It's logical because I just kept quiet for a long time, listened to things that you'd said before.
Okay, no problem. No problem, Pete. Go ahead.
Right. The part of your statement, there's a part of your statement that the question that you're asking me that makes no sense to me, that I'm trying to get you to clarify.
No problem.
You're saying, if two different words were used, how is that a contradiction? Now, my argument is obviously, if two different words were used, how can that possibly not be a contradiction? Right? That is my argument.
Excellent.
Now, what you're saying is, if two different words were used, I'm inferring that you mean were actually used at the time, then the account is correct. And what I'm asking you is, are you suggesting that it's possible that both variations were used at the time? I am asking you what you are, if that is what you're saying.
Right.
Am I understanding you correctly?
Right, okay. Now you see, and again, which is, I have to say, because it is common sense, you are coming right back to what I'm asking you, but you are trying to ask me. Yes, I did say to you, it sounds a bit labored this, but I will do it anyway. Yes, what's the difference between clay and mud? You have not answered it. I've asked you 3 times, you haven't answered it. But now I'll go back to what you said. You see, I asked you, just go to the verse, and you went into the Arabic and you read 1 and 2, okay? I am saying to you, if, according to your words, and I'm going to, because I was noting them down for you, yeah? If you are saying that there's something that is being said, okay? And one word is teen, according to what you read, and another one is completely, like you said. Do you want to repeat that again, what it said?
Yeah, I'll be happy to tell you again.
Yeah?
It was, let me just go to the correct document. It was when he told him that he was going to tell the angels he was going to create Adam. In the second one, it's simply the single word teeming. In the other one that you're asking me to remind you of, it says salsalim min hamain masnunin.
Yeah. Means now, sorry.
Salsalim min hamain masnunin. Right? Just double check that. Salsalim min hamain masnunin. So, masnunin. So that's 9 syllables versus 2 syllables. So not only have we got a discrepancy of the syllables being completely different, there are an additional 7. And this is the kind of mistake I expect a human to make. On one day he says he's going to make it clay, but another day he says, he's going to make it from clay to black. Word for word identical.
Oh, okay.
Word for word identical. Phoning to phoning. Every single...
right, okay. Sorry.
Absolutely identical.
Pete, I mean, I have to, and I mean this with the greatest of respect. I do give you the credit for trying so hard, okay? But you are reading something which you can't pronounce properly, okay? Please, let me finish now, Pete. You can't, and I'm not accusing you of that, because I would be the same in a foreign language. If I can just finish, I would be the same in a foreign language also. But I'm looking and thinking, Pete is reading Salsalin. Yes, that's where you started, okay? Salsalin. Yes, you are reading that. Then what did you read? Yes.
Salsalim hamain masnunin.
Salsalin min hamaim masnunin. That's what you are reading, masnun. Now, and on the other side it says teen. Yes? Min, one second. It says khalakum basharam min teen. Yes?
Right, hang on, let me go and look at the Arabic.
Please do. Look at the transliteration.
No, I'm going to look at the Arabic.
Oh, can you read it?
I can read Arabic.
Alright, excellent. Excellent. If you can you just go, you know where it says inni khalaqun basharum min teen.
Right, so, where are we? We're on 3871.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And create human being from tini, and it's ta with a kasra, ya, and then a nun with a in at the end, so it's chi, nin.
No. Pete. I asked if you start. I don't expect you to read the whole thing, but it starts off. It starts off with Isqala Rabbuka lil malaikati inni khalaqum basharam min teen. Yes? Now, the sentence. Now, I want you to be honest to yourself and to everybody else. If there are two sentences there, yeah? There are two sentences. Yes? Pete. The sentences are using different words.
Yeah, that's my point.
I know that's your point, but you claimed one, a contradiction, an error, and I'm looking at them and saying, wait a minute, I think Pete has completely misunderstood this, because the verse is there, it's very clear, okay? Now, it is talking about a particular issue, hence the importance of actually determining what the actual, and I'm going to call it confidently, revelation actually says. You know, I made a point earlier on about how William Shakespeare's works are being translated into English. Yes? One second, Pete. From English into English. One wonders, why would one want to translate English into English? We know why the reasons, and they are valid reasons. But here, you have read two, we call them ayahs, two sentences, yes? How did you come up with the contradiction?
Yeah, and what I'm explaining to you is, right, these were supposed to be words that were uttered at an exact point in time. Are we in agreement on that? Yes.
Now, excellent. You have brought up a point. Now, let's go back, Pete. Let's go back to the verses and see how you have determined it was at the exact point. How did you do that?
Allah announced to the angels that He's going to create Adam, how He's going to make it, and once He has created Adam, what they should do.
Right, Pete. Let's just go to the two verses that you brought up, and I'm only going according to what you said. You have used the words the exact point. Now, I am quite picky about words that are chosen by people because they sort of give you an indication of what the other person is trying to say. So tell me how you came to that conclusion that it is talking about the exact same time.
Right. So is that your
No, it's only a question because the others you aren't answering, to be honest.
What I'm saying is that your contention with my
No,
argument?
it's not a contention. Pete.
No, basically, right, if I say to you, I don't know the exact time, right? So let's say, I will say, they look like they were done at the same time, because it's describing the same event, in the same order, using almost identical words, yeah? So, from that, I infer that it is the exact same time, yeah? Now, what are the consequences, right? Let's say that I'm wrong, yeah? That's basically the potential consequences is my assumption is incorrect, yeah? What would that mean? That would mean, right, that Allah went to the angels and said two different things similar apart from 9 syllables.
Yeah.
So it's telling them something he's already told them, right? Around about the same time. Either way, it's before Adam is created. Yeah. And he's telling them the same thing using almost exactly the same words. He's telling them twice. That is the implication of saying that they were not at the same time.
Right.
All I want to know is yes or no. Are you saying
Pete.
Therefore, think they must have been said at different times?
Pete, I appreciate again your attempt, but it's a good try. I asked a specific question, and I'm going to be quite insistent here. You used words exact time.
Yeah.
Yes, and I said how, and off you went, and then now you have respectfully you have actually shifted the goalpost by trying to infer something out of the verses. But Pete, I'm being as forthright as I can here now. Yes, I've asked you about certain questions. You have avoided answering. I asked you about the difference between clay and mud. Respectfully, you avoided answering. You then came, Pete, if I can, yeah. Then here, I'm not. I've asked you and I've asked again. But now, Pete, we have come to these verses. Now I asked you 2 sentences. Okay, 2 sentences. You made the statements, and I agree entirely with you that look, everything word for. Are you okay, Pete? Everything word for word is being recorded syllable to syllable by Google or whatever else. I'm so glad. But you see, the point here is, Pete, that if 2 sentences are being used about a certain issue, okay, you deemed them first to be an error, possibly a contradiction, and neither have been objectively proven by you, and even worse, that when we are looking at the verses themselves, different words are employed, meaning the same thing, a bit like your cat sat on the and cat sat upon the, okay? Any reasonable person, yeah, and I would urge you to try this, Pete, using your own test. If I were to go to any reasonable person and say, listen, I have got 2 sentences here. One sentence says, the cat sat on the mat, and the other one says, the cat sat upon the mat. Hey, there's a contradiction. You know what they are going to do? They are going to look at me and think, what a plonker. And respectfully, I mean this. But
if for a long time, so let me get in there.
Well, I have no choice because you keep respectfully going all over the place.
Right?
Sure.
But you're saying the same thing that you said before, right? And you've been saying it for a long time. And I have said, right, on numerous occasions, right, the fact that 2 things mean the same doesn't mean they are the same. Yeah. If I say the cat sat on the mat, and another time I say the cat sat upon the mat, I meant the same things, but I did not say the same words.
But are they contradiction? Are they a contradiction, Pete?
No, the meaning isn't in contradiction.
Are they a contradiction?
But the contradiction is, right, if I put forward a fact that I said the cat sat upon the mat, when the fact is I said the cat sat on the mat, it's not the meaning of the words that is in contradiction, it's the fact that I am stating as a fact these were the exact sounds that were made.
Okay.
And then in the account I'm saying these were different sounds that were made.
Okay, let me take your reasoning
forward. You understand the argument?
Yes, Pete, let me take your argument forward. If that is the case, Pete, according to you, yes, if at 2 different times you said, one said the cat sat on the mat, the cat sat upon a mat, Pete, yes, according to you, yes, and your reasoning therefore is this, that if it was what? A fact, yeah? Is that what you said?
No, that's fine, because that's what I've been trying to get at.
Pete, are you saying that it is a fact? And if it is meant to be a fact, okay, it should be exactly the same also the other side. Am I correct?
So,
is that what you are saying, Pete?
Can you let me answer, please?
I do apologize. No, I just want to make sure.
You're asking me and then harassing me entertain.
No. Respectfully, I'm not harassing you. Pete, I just want to make absolutely clear because you do seem to be misunderstanding very quickly.
No, let me say it, right?
Please.
If the sentence is said only once, yeah? If the sentence is said only once, right? And then later it is accounted for using two different forms of the sentence, one of those sentences is factually incorrect. However, if there were two different occasions where I said similar things, yeah, and these two later accounts are actually talking about different earlier historical events, then there is no contradiction. And what I want to know is that what you are asking me? Are you saying, basically, there is no contradiction because it's talking about two different events where both different sentences were used? Is that what your answer is?
No, Pete, I'm not saying that. And as I already said, that you are misunderstanding very easily, respectfully. I mean this. Yes, you see, I'm going to repeat what I said.
Pete, don't repeat, reword.
Well, if I reword, you might accuse it of being a contradiction.
No, wait.
But so I won't do that. Anyway, Pete, you see, I'm so glad you said that. I mean, the rewording issue is one thing. But the main point here that has come out, yes, which you are clearly now, without realizing it, making or admitting rather, and you did concede the point earlier on about which history it's talking about, okay? I would say this to you, Pete, yes, that where a person is trying to establish a point, it is for that person to make it crystal clear what that point is, okay? Now you relied on two statements which allegedly, according to you, had a problem in the Qur'an. According to that one reason, at least amongst many reasons, you have concluded in your own mind on a purely subjective basis that the Qur'an was man-made. Okay? Now, I turned it around and I said, you know what? And I talked about Shakespeare being translated into English. It was written in English, but it is being translated into English. The point I'm making here is this, Pete, that if it was an important point, yes, for you, yeah, you would look and think to yourself, right, okay, I'm respectfully reading something here, it is not making sense according to you, okay? However, the two statements are using different words but talking about the same event.
Yeah. So
correct?
one of them,
If I can just finish. So now, if that is the case, then logically and reasonably speaking, one would want to determine every word that one is using in their argument and understand fully what those words actually mean in the context of the statements that you read. So, for example, I asked you, and I'll come right back to it. Pete, I'll come right back. Pete, can I just finish? Can I just finish, Pete? I'll come right back to it and I asked a simple question. What's the difference between mud and clay? Then you are going to have to tell me, sorry?
That's fine. One is spelled M-U-D, the other one is spelled C-L-A-Y.
Is that the difference? According to you? Is that the difference according to you, Pete?
That's the difference between the words mud and the word
Pete,
clay.
is that the difference between clay and mud? What you just said? Pete, you are telling me the difference between clay and mud is the spelling.
I am telling you the difference between the word clay and the word mud is the spelling.
I just said that. Pete, I come across many people who have tried to argue the point and respectfully, miserably failed. And please, Pete. No, I did say other people. I didn't say you. Now, Pete. I expected respectfully, Pete. I asked you what's the difference between mud and clay, and the best answer you could come out with was one is M-U-D and the other is C-L-A-Y. That is the sum and substance of your argument, Pete. Really?
Please don't straw man me, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't, Pete. If I did, I didn't mean to do that.
I will tell you what my argument is.
Sorry, what was that?
don't tell me what my argument is. I will tell you what my argument is. That's not very
Pete, I would respectfully, if I sounded like that, I do sincerely apologize, but I am repeating what I said. Are you saying that the difference between mud and clay is one is M-U-D and the other is C-L-A-Y?
No, I will, for the very last time, and then I'm going to move on, right? My objection isn't about the meaning of the word, it is the fact that it says these were the words that were said. Not the meaning of the words, these are the words that were said. I'm not telling you the difference between mud and clay is the spelling. I'm telling you the difference between the word mud and the word clay is spelling, how it's pronounced, and the fact of whether or not you said mud or clay. Not what they mean, what was said.
I see.
And I want to move on now because I don't want to just overlay this point because
Pete.
Go for too long, and I mean.
Right, I think you are being unfair here, Pete. You are determining when you want to move on, despite the fact that you have not been able to effectively make your point even on this simple one. Now, if I can just say, Pete, you see, I entirely agree with you that we should be moving on, but I'm looking at the basis of our discussion. First, there was a problem with just the question itself.
Let's not summarise the discussion, please.
No, I'm not. I'm just coming to it, Pete, because
I don't know what happened.
Okay, Pete. You know what? I will have no problem. I will allow you to move on. No problem.
Thank you. It's to summarise what's happened again for the fifth time just isn't really any good at all.
No problem. Let's move on.
One of the things that particularly struck me as peculiar when it comes to specific points in time, right, and what people said is not, these verses basically, in the one set of verses to say clay and others says clay from black mud and so on, and there's a theme, as I would expect from humans, where they're telling the story, the same difference occurs every time, right? That's how stories evolve over time, not how infallible records are actually made. But when it gets to the point of Moses, right, and he's thrown his staff down and it swallowed up the snakes that the magicians had done.
Can you tell us which verse, please?
Yeah, I will as soon as I get to the actual point. I'll tell you. I'm just giving you the context so far, right? Now, Moses, Pharaoh demanded proof from Moses. Now, there are two verses that I can give you here. First,
give me a second. 1 second, Pete. Sorry. I'm just taking a piece of paper. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Right, the first one is Surah 7, Ayah 106.
106, yeah.
And the second one is Surah 26, Ayah 31. Yeah? Now this is the verse before, just to give you, this is an earlier verse, just to give you the context of what we're actually going to be talking about. Okay? So this is the context. So if you read from there, and then what happens is Pharaoh challenged Moses to present him with proof, right, that he's a messenger of God. Yeah. Now, when Pharaoh demanded the proof, he says, if you have come with a sign, then bring it if you are truthful. But in the other account, he actually said, then bring it if you are truthful. Which I'm not going to say is an error because one of them is a subset of the other. They're not a contradiction. Yeah? Because you could just admit that if you have come with a sign and just say, part of what he said was then bring it if you're truthful. So I can accept that as not being an error. Except, of course, in the Arabic, it does require you to change Fatimiha to Fatimihi. That does contradict, but given the fact that he's cutting some off, I'll give some slack there. But it goes on, right? Moses did his magic, yeah? I'm just give you the verses in a minute. I just want to check that you're with me on the context. The magicians have done their magic. Moses has done his magic, yeah? Now, at this point, right, Moses has done something and it's quite impressive, yeah? And we get to the point now where the Egyptians react to Moses' magic. Yeah? And the verses are Surah 7, Ayah 109, and Surah 10, Ayah 76. Tell me once you've got those written down, because there's another one as well.
Go ahead.
26.34.
Okay.
Yeah. What's happened at this point? I believe that the thing that he'd just done was shown a white hand or something. But anyway, this point of the story, Moses has done his opening magic, and they're going to confer as to what they're going to do about it. Now, in account 1, right, which is 7.109, it says that Pharaoh's chiefs said to the Pharaoh, "Indeed, this is surely a magician learned. He wants to drive you out from your land. What do you advise?" So the Pharaohs have asked, the chiefs have asked the Pharaoh what he advises, because Moses is obviously a very good magician. Right? In account 2, 10.76, it's Pharaoh and the chiefs together saying, "Indeed, this is surely a magic clear," which contradicts earlier, because it says, "This is surely a magician." Yeah? So in the first one, it's talking about a noun. In the second one, it's talking about a verb, magic. Now, in account 3, it says, the Pharaoh said to the chiefs, "Indeed, this is surely a magician learned. He wants to drive you out from your land by his magic, so what do you advise?" Now, this is word for word identical to what it's claiming the chief said to the Pharaoh. So in 7.109, the chiefs say, "Indeed, this is surely a magician learned. He wants to drive you out from your land. What do you advise?" But in 26:35, it's the Pharaoh saying it to the chiefs. It's the opposite way round, saying the same words. "Indeed, this is surely a magician learned. He wants to drive you out from your land by his magic. What do you advise?" Now, either the human telling this story has got it the wrong way round, or the Pharaoh or the chiefs are a parrot and repeat whatever they hear word for word, syllable for syllable.
Right. Okay. Is that your argument, Pete?
Yes.
What is the conclusion you are coming up with? It's a contradiction.
Well, the conclusion is what do we see in human society when we relay stories? And that is that stories vary over time. And this can be the words that are said, who it was that actually said the words to whom, and so on. These are signs of human authorship that we see all around us. And then in this case, in the Qur'an, what we see is accurately the same words are used. So the same words have been remembered, but the story's been mistold or misremembered, because instead of, in one case, it's the chief saying those exact words to the Pharaoh, and in another case, it's the Pharaoh saying it to the chiefs. The story changes as to who the agent is saying the word.
Right. I can appreciate and understand your respectfully confusion here, because Pete, if I can just, I'm merely formulating an opinion based on what you are saying. Yes, I can see your confusion, because while you were speaking, you strangely went to Arabic and then went to English. Yes, you said in the Arabic there's X, and Pete, if I can just, yeah. Now you have come to these verses. If we go to the verses, yeah, the first one is chapter 7, verse 109. Okay, I'm just coming up to it. Yeah. So 109. Okay. The chiefs of Pharaoh's people said, "This is some knowing wizard." Okay, I'm reading from the Pictorial translation. Okay, which one is this one that you have got up?
Yusuf Ali.
Yusuf Ali. His plan is to get you out of your land. Then what is it you counsel? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Right.
So that's what the chiefs of the people said to the Pharaoh. Yeah.
So what was it? The chiefs of Pharaoh's people said. Okay. 109. Let's go to 1076. That's the next one you brought up.
Well, let's skip that one for now because.
Whoa, wait a minute, Pete. You use them, I'm just going to them.
No,
Is that okay?
1076 all we have.
Pete, you said 1076. I wrote them down.
Okay, well, that's fine.
So can we go with that? Or are you changing your mind?
No.
Okay. 1076 says, and when the truth from our presence came to them, they said, this is mere magic. Am I right in reading that?
Yeah. Now what my point on 1076 wasn't the same as the other two that I said. Basically, I was going to add that at the end to say, I don't want to cut the argument short by saying it, so that's why I was going to say, we'll skip it for now. Address the main part of the argument, because basically that just adds a bit of ridicule to it. Because what you've got is the scenario here where the chiefs say a sentence to the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh says the exact same sentence as the chiefs. And then, in the third account, all together they say, this is surely a magic clear.
Right, okay. Now Pete, let's since you've decided to leave 1076 out because you thought it would be the last thing you want to say, let's just look at the two others. Yeah? 7109. Okay? That's the first one. The chiefs of Pharaoh's people said, this is some knowing wizard. Am I right? Yeah? Said the chiefs. Yeah, it says the chiefs of Pharaoh's people said, this is some knowing wizard. Correct?
Yep.
7109. 2634 I'm going to now.
Yep.
2634 said to the chiefs about him, this is verily a knowing wizard.
Say that first part again.
Yeah. 7109.
No, the next one.
The second one.
7109.
No, he means the second one.
No, that's the one I just read. I'm reading here. Yeah?
Yeah.
The chiefs of Pharaoh's people said, this is some knowing wizard. Yes? Going to 26. Yeah?
109. Said the chiefs to the. Yeah, said the chiefs. 7.19, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I just said. I'm going to 2634 I'm going to now. Yeah? Said to the chiefs about him, this is verily a knowing wizard. Yeah? What's the problem?
Right. The problem is, first of all, you're making the mistake that I originally made, and you're comparing the interpretation to English. If you actually look at the Arabic, right? So let's have a look at 26.34 and also 7.109.
Yeah.
Right? And you look at the actual Arabic itself.
Yeah.
Right? What you find is it's not talking about. It's actually using the same words. See. So, in 2634, Kalla, he said, right, to the chiefs, in Malay,
Sorry?
he said to the chiefs around him, indeed, this is surely a magician, right? Magician, la sahirun, right? And then in 7.109, it says, this is a magician, la sahirun. So what you're doing is you're reading the English and saying, these aren't even the same sentences. Whereas I'm saying, no, they're not the same in English because that's the way people has decided what they mean. If you actually look at the Arabic and the phonemes that were uttered, you will see that he uses the same words for magician and so on and so on.
Pete.
But
Again.
at the same
Pete.
sentence,
Yes. Pete, again, I mean this with the greatest of respect. And I'm going to ask you, because I've never made this claim since our discussion started. Can I just ask you, what is your competence in Arabic?
Well, let's put it this way, I've said I don't speak it, but I can read the writing.
Now you do understand when I use the word, what is your competence in Arabic, I'm not only meaning about speaking and writing. What is your competence in the
I've only got a very basic
right, Pete, I mean respectfully, I think I can now see why you are having such a problem with the Quran and why you think they are errors. I mean, Pete, it is a strange one this, okay? Your competence in Arabic is virtually...
Arabic, yeah.
No, Pete. It is important, and I'm sure you will concede this point, that you are trying to determine your entire argument. If I can just finish, Pete. You are trying to determine your entire argument on a book, yes, in a language of which your knowledge... I'm glad you are finding it funny, because I wanted to laugh, but I thought it would be offending to you. Yes? But I'll tell you, Pete, I've asked you and now I'll ask you again, and this is an objective question. What is your competence in the Arabic language?
Okay, as I've already said, I only have a very basic understanding of a few phrases of conversational Arabic. However, I can read the letters, know how they sound.
Oh, okay.
Let me finish.
Oh, I do apologize. I thought you had. Sorry.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
And I can read them, and I know when letters are different. I know when the vowel signs are different, and I can see when two sentences are not saying the same thing. Right. I also have references that I can look up of a word-to-word breakdown from corpusquran.com, which tells me, right, which part of the sentence I'm looking at. Now, these sentences, right, it's the same sentence. If you look at the Arabic and compare it, it's the same sentence, with one exception, and that is, in the one sentence, it's the chief saying it to the Pharaoh, but in another account, it's the Pharaoh saying it to the chiefs. I can see that it's the same sentence. I don't need to speak Arabic to be able to match patterns, see that they're identical. I don't need to do that. It's a false argument. And the reason that I laughed earlier was because I suddenly had this flashback to you sitting there saying, it transcends language. And then all of a sudden, I need to speak the language to see if syllables are identical or not.
Yes.
And that's just a false argument.
Right, excellent. I'll come back to you, Pete. And again, you have yet again proven my point as to where your confusion lies. You see, without realizing it, how you confused two issues and possibly conflated them also. Yes? A simple thing. The idea that I had brought about transcending language was the fact of memorization. Yeah? No. If you did know, you wouldn't have made that comparison, which was a bit, I suppose, in excitement it happens. Okay? But the fact that you made the admission that yours is only a basic understanding of Arabic, yeah, and nothing to do with the memorization element which transcends all languages, which is still valid, okay, I asked you about it. Now, I would also naturally ask you this, and I'm going to ask you, and I want you to be honest with me, okay? Me and you have decided to go to Spain for a holiday. You are familiar with Spain, okay? Pete, look, I allowed you, I'm now going to use your method of argument to determine whether it is reasonable or not. Okay? If I can just finish, Pete. Me and you go to Spain, and while we are enjoying ourselves on the beach, two police officers turn up, and they arrest us. Yes? Do you speak fluent Spanish, Pete?
Fluent, no.
You don't? Okay, nor do I. Okay? Yeah, but these guys come and they arrest us and they are speaking in Spanish to us. Me and you look at each other, blank stares, and trying to work out what is going on. Yes? They cart us away in a car, yeah? They take us to a holding cell. We are still demanding to know what's the problem. We want to talk to a lawyer. We want to ring the British consulate, etc., etc. You get the gist. Yes? No, they don't listen to us. We end up in a court of law. And the guy, the prosecutor, is talking in Spanish, blah, 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 blah. And me and you suddenly hear a voice saying, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry, in English. And we have a sigh of relief. Oh, excellent, there's someone in English. Okay? He comes along and he says to us, he says, guys, it is a serious matter. You've been accused of murder. Yeah? And shock horror for both of us, I'm sure. We are going to say, what are you talking about? No, please, Pete. Yes. I'll shorten it. I'll shorten it for you. Yes? I'm just afraid maybe there might be a misunderstanding. Basically, this is what's happened. We are accused of murder. He decides to voluntarily become our defense lawyer, and he tells us, Pete Shabir, I must tell you first that mine is a very basic understanding of Spanish. Would you have him as your defense lawyer?
No, I wouldn't.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right. So, my point is, now, people can look this up for themselves. Right? My point is that if you look at the Arabic, the syllables, phonemes, they're all identical, except for the point that in the one account, 7.109, it says this is the sentence that was said to by the chiefs, and in 26.34 it says this is a sentence was said to the chiefs, and that is the difference. We're not going to agree on that, but I just want to make sure for the record my objection is clear. The exact same sentence, in one it was to the chiefs, and in the other it was from the chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right, Pete. I'll also. Sorry, I thought you had finished. Sorry.
We've got 20 minutes left, so let's get through this really quick now. Right. My other thought on the Qur'an is it's from a divine entity that knows everything, doesn't make mistakes, presumably wants to convince me that it's actually from a divine entity and not from humans. He does want me to be convinced of that, doesn't he? It's God. He wants me to believe it's from God and not.
Like I said, Pete, I'd rather we deal with the evidence, not what we think.
No, but I mean, we're agreeing, yeah?
No, we haven't agreed. We haven't agreed, Pete. I have not agreed with you. Like I said, I'd rather you tell me, Shabir, the verse in the Quran says this and it is trying to convince me, presumably.
I'm giving you the basis of why I think this verse is going to
You think? Okay, that's fine.
I'll do the verses first and then explain. And that's what I like. Right, chapter 41, verses 9 through to 12. It says, as a summary, the order of events is: created the earth, turned to the heavenly smoke, ordained to the seven heavens, decked the nether heavens with lamps. Right? This is the order in which it says, in which it describes the creation of the universe. Now, I'm not going to say that the Quran is saying that they were created in that order. Right? It could be saying we created the earth, but you know what? At some point earlier than that, we created the heavens when there's smoke, and at some point, other point, we did seven heavens, and after that, we did the lamps. You know, it doesn't necessarily, even though I think it gives an order, I'm not going to argue that it actually is an order. However, right, if the Quran is from an entity that is perfect, knows everything, right, then one, it would know that that isn't the actual order that it happened. Two, it would know that people of the time actually did believe that's the way it happened. They had a geocentric geocentric model of how the universe was created. There was water, everything was all misty, and then the earth was created, and then a barrier was lifted up to make the heavens, and then the stars are actually lights on some kind of a firmament that was lifted up. This was the genesis of creation, according to beliefs at the time. According to beliefs at the time, which are geocentric and incorrect, it was earth first, heavens and lights. In reality, it was heavens first, followed by earth. And my contention with this is, if it was written by a human, right, I would, with obviously no modern knowledge of cosmology, I would expect a human in the 7th century to tell me about the universe being and the earth being created and use the facts in that order. However, if it was an entity that was trying to convince me that it wasn't the human writing the book, I wouldn't expect to see it in the order a human would have written it from the 7th century. I'd have used the exact words, but in a different order. The different order would have been that he turned to the heaven when it was like smoke and said to it, come together. Then he ordained the 7 heavens. He did the nether heavens with lights, as in made stars, then created the earth, and then made hills on the earth. So basically, it's almost word for word reverse of what the Qur'an says. And the thing is, my point here is, if it had been the other way around, the Qur'an would have been better. It wouldn't have been right or wrong, it just would have been better, because it would have been more convincing, right? Why is it that me, a person from the 21st century, with 1400 years of technological advancement in knowledge, can rearrange those verses to make them into a more correct order and improve the believability of the Qur'an, where the God who allegedly not only knew the order of it, but knew that people would read it and think, hang on a minute, that's the way that people used to believe when they were wrong. Why did God not write it in the better way? Why can I improve on perfection?
Hello? Hello?
Did you get it?
Hello, I'm sorry, are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, the last few sentences I missed, you went. Can you repeat that last? I heard the last thing I heard was when you said, if a person in the 20th century, and then you went, you started going fuzzy.
Okay.
Please,
So
sorry.
What I said from there was, if a person, me,
Yeah.
21st century,
Yeah.
can rearrange the verses to make them more convincing, because I've got this extra cosmology knowledge, why is it that a mere human in the 21st century can rearrange the verses to make it more convincing to someone in the 21st century? And an all-knowing God in the 7th century couldn't do that. Why can I improve on perfection?
Okay. I mean, to be honest with you, usually when I'm discussing with anybody, I would usually say at this juncture, you are entitled to your opinions, but they don't make them right.
Okay, that's fine.
Now, having said that, I'm looking at the verses that you are talking about, and a thought is coming into my mind. Are these the only verses talking about the heavens and the earth in the Quran, Pete?
No, but
Right. 1 second. Sorry. The answer is no. So did you also do a chronological order of these verses to determine whether these particular sentences or set of words match what you are thinking?
Well, I've just taken them, verses 9 to 12. I haven't taken.
That's it.
They're even in the same chapter. I haven't taken them even from different places.
Right. Okay. No problem. So it is only merely your opinion in which you think you are doing a better job.
Yeah, it is my
Okay, that's fine. But on a factual basis and on an evidential basis,
On a
why have you, why, apart from you personally thinking the way you think, why have you raised them?
Yeah, the reason is because being a product of the 21st century with the advances we've made in cosmological discoveries,
yes,
we know that it was gaseous state which formed into various stars, and after the stars, then
yes,
slowly more stars came, Earth
yes,
formed,
yes,
and so on. Right?
yes.
We know that it happened in that order.
Okay.
Whereas the order, now I'm not saying the Qur'an is specifying a specific order.
Oh.
Yeah? What I'm saying is the order in which it lists the events. Right?
Yeah.
The order in which it lists the events.
Yes.
Right? Can easily be seen by someone in the 21st century, and are by many people, to be an erroneous geocentric creation model that was
Right.
very commonly believed by humans in the 7th century.
Okay.
Whereas,
Okay.
if Allah had said the exact same words,
Yes.
just had the verses in a different order,
Yeah.
then the 21st century would look back and say, well, that's what people in the 7th century believed.
Right.
That's why.
I understand, Pete. Can we just go through the three? Right, I see. But can we just go through the verses and see what it is that your contention is really? Is that okay?
Yeah,
Right. Let's
my
just
contention is that I can make it more convincing.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, again, it just comes back to the idea, and I know you might not like this, but it does come back to the idea of translating Shakespeare into English. But going to the verses themselves, Pete, yes? Shall we just have a read and see, and if you can point out to me what it is that you are objecting to, or what it is in the 21st century with a bit of knowledge of cosmology that makes you conclude that you would have done a better job, correct?
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Verse 9.
Considering the fact that you have already made the admission that you are not saying that it was necessarily created in this order, correct? Yes. So we'll just go with this. It says, verse number 9. Say, do you disbelieve? You know, it is in brackets. Obviously, we understand what we are saying. Say, do you disbelieve in him who created the earth in 2 days, and you ascribe rivals to him? Yeah, he is the Lord of the worlds. Correct?
Yeah.
What is it saying there?
It's saying that he created the earth.
And what else is it saying?
Oh, the rest of it isn't really relevant. It's saying, how can you disbelieve in him? Right? How can you disbelieve in the very one that created the earth? And how can you ascribe rivals to him? I am the Lord of the world. But it doesn't matter what the whole sentence is. What's happening is it's listing events.
Pete, I appreciate what you are trying to do, but it's extremely strange, and you made your position very clear that you are an atheist. Okay, what I usually say is atheism, yes, is an advanced form of ignorance and delusion. Okay. Now, and I'm not suggesting that is what personally, Pete, like I said, I only say this, it's my opinion, yeah? But you are actually telling me, yes, that, I read the verse, and I actually specifically asked you, what is this verse saying? You read one bit of it, and the rest you are saying is not relevant. Obviously, it's not relevant to your argument, which is understandable. But Pete, that's not the issue, because you have chosen verses 9 to 12, yes, with this idea that there may be a, what can we say, a coherent narrative, yes, but you have already made the admission that may not necessarily be the case. So yes, I would suggest to you, just like you are providing your opinion, I will provide mine on an equal footing, and say to you, and I would suggest this, that when we, and I'm using the legal industry as an example, that when statutes are being drafted, every word that is being put in the statute is carefully considered before it is placed in. Why? So that there is clarity. However, when that statute comes onto the statute books, yes, we find that it is subject to interpretation. We agree with that, don't we? Yes, okay. Now, again, the same old example to you, Pete, and that's where unfortunately you're failing is that if I were to come to you and say, Pete, please can you just explain this particular statute to me? You pick it up, you have a look and you think, Shabir, what language is this? Oh, it's Greek. Well, I only know a few words in Greek. So I might not be able to help you. If you are honest, that is what you would say. Unfortunately, you seem to do that without a problem with the Quran. And I know you, like I said, you are intelligent enough, Pete, to know that the Quran, when it was revealed and then it was formulated in book form, originally did not have the points that make us non-Arabs understand how to read a particular word. Okay? Now, the point I'm making here is that verse 9, we have already, you have said, look, some of it is irrelevant, whereas I'm saying actually, just like a statute book, every word is very carefully put. But nevertheless, we'll go to verse 10. He placed in it firm hills rising above it and blessed it and measured in it its sustenance in 4 days alike. For who ask? What is it saying there, Pete?
Well, it's saying the words that you just said.
Okay.
Words are quite clear what
Now, verse 11, then he turned to the heaven when it was smoke and said to it and to the earth, come both of you, willingly or reluctantly. This is the translation. They said, we come obedient. Now, the verse says, then he turned to the heaven when it was smoke and said to it and to the earth.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, it means exactly what you said.
What does it mean? What does it mean in the context of 21st century cosmology?
Well, I can tell you what it means. I can tell you what it means in the concept of 7th century cosmology.
No, I want you to tell me in the context of 21st century cosmology.
In the context of 21st century.
That's my question.
In the context of 21st century cosmology,
Yes.
it's just wrong.
Why?
Because when the heavens were smoke, the earth didn't exist. And I use smoke as in gaseous state.
Okay, so but
No. First, I want to make clear.
Sure.
First, I want to make clear.
Yeah.
Right, that I am not going to use that as an argument to say I think this one line is an error in the Quran, which is what I think you're trying to bait me to do.
Not at all. I would not do that. You've already made the error. Not at all, Pete.
That is not my contention. What I'm
Fine.
saying is I can explain it perfectly clear to the 7th century cosmology. I don't see any concordance with the 21st cosmology. I'm not going to make a positive assertion that that's a specific.
You are entitled to your opinion, Pete. I'm entitled to mine.
Yeah, so now you go on, carry on, the next verse.
No. The problem I'm finding is you use those verses to try and justify a particular point, and when I've pulled it up, you are insisting that it should be in the context of 7th century cosmology. I'm thinking to myself, okay, so you are telling me that the whole of the Quran in relation to this subject matter is... No, it's not. I'm just understanding your last point here. Okay? You have used verse 9, 10, 11. 9, 10, 11 and 12. Yes? And on that basis, you are trying to say to me what you think is the case. And you rightly pointed out in the context of 7th century cosmology. Again, like I said, I have actually had occasion to see some of your videos, and I see the error very clearly in your reasoning. And the error is this, that you are determining everything on the basis of the little that you do know. Based on your opinion, Pete, and you are respectfully, completely allowed that, but I would sincerely suggest, Pete, that if you really are wanting to be a proponent of human beings who want to claim that the Quran is man-made, I would sincerely suggest that you do a bit more study before we actually take this up. If I can just, I'm nearly finished, Pete, because we've come to 12 o'clock. Yeah, I am saying the verses you have chosen so far, the 2, 3, whatever, you yourself have had to make the admission that they are not necessarily saying what you thought they were saying. Okay, I don't mind at all. I'm more than prepared, hopefully, and I hope this is just not the one time we are going to meet, Pete. I hope we can meet again, but this time we will choose a subject in which you will be comfortable with.
I'm comfortable with the subject a lot. I just think you misrepresented me a lot.
Or not at
If I'm not mistaken, what you just said, I'm not mistaken, what you just said is, I am claiming that the order matches 7th century geocentric cosmology, and if I didn't mishear, you said that you agree that it does match the order.
No, I didn't say anything like that.
Do
I
you
didn't.
agree?
What I am saying to you is, I am asking you about 21st century cosmology, but you are insisting that you want to go to the.
Well, let me
to
clarify that, because you
Well,
misunderstood.
Pete,
Clarify
the one
that.
respect.
What I'm saying is
No, can I just say, sorry, Pete. The only thing is that I had made it clear, and my friend Muhammad did say, "Oh, do you want to go beyond 12?" And I told him, no, I cannot, because my dear old mother is waiting for me. Yeah. So by all means, Pete, if you want to have part 2, yes, I'm more than willing. I have no problem with that.
I'll tell you what.
Yeah,
Right?
Pete.
Because basically, I feel that a lot of this has actually been stalling, right? Let me, with like the next couple of minutes, just tell you my final. I mean, it's not my final contention. I've got a hell of a lot. The better Qur'an.com, I've listed them all, right? But the last point I'll put to you is chapter 4, verse 82 says, "Do they not consider the Qur'an? Had it been from other than Allah, they would surely have found therein much discrepancy." Yeah? Do you want to look it up?
No, I know the verse you're talking about. It's okay.
It's a false conditional statement, because what it's saying is, if the Quran had been from a human, right, it would have had errors in it, because books by humans have got errors in them, but that's not true. Some human books don't have errors in them. So by saying, if the Quran had been written by a human, it would have errors in it, that's incorrect. Books written by humans don't always have errors in it, so therefore that is a conditionally false statement in the Quran.
Is that it?
It's
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, Pete. I'll tell you what. You remind me of this individual I was having a discussion with, and he referred to this particular verse of the Quran, and he says, "I tell you what, pick up a basic arithmetic book, and you won't find any errors in it." I mean, I had no choice but to really find it hilarious, to be honest with you, because when you are making a claim, obviously you should have the evidence to back up the claim. Now you just said Surah 4 verse 82 is a false conditional statement. Yeah, that's what you claim. Okay? Okay, I'll just ask you a question on this. Surah 4 verse 82. In totality, what is it encompassing?
It's encompassing the whole book.
Is that all subject matter?
The whole Quran.
Is it all subject matters contained within the Quran?
Yeah.
So all you need to do is find an equivalent book like that, and we can make the distinction.
No. It says that if the Quran had been from humans, it would have errors in it. Well, I'm sorry.
Pete, do not misrepresent the Quran. That's not what it says. The verse says, أَفَلَا يَتَدَّبَرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ. One second, Pete. It's telling you this. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. Where does it mention human beings? Yeah? Where does it mention? It says, and I'm using the translation now, do they not ponder on the Quran, had it been from any other than Allah?
Yeah. And any other from Allah. I am other from Allah. Humans are other from Allah.
Is there anything else apart from humans according to the Quran?
Is being from any
Pete, is there anything else other than humans that the Quran mentions?
It says if it had been from any
Yes.
It's humans.
What else?
If they exist, aliens.
Is there yeah, so it's not only humans. Again, that shows me that your understanding is very restricted.
No, it's not my understanding. I'm not misunderstanding. You just don't seem
No,
to
I said your
understand.
understanding. I said your understanding is restricted.
No, my understanding is fine. I'm saying
Fair enough.
if it was from any, I mean, I even just said it, didn't I? Jinns, if they really exist.
No, that's only after it's only after I corrected you, Pete. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I must have misheard. Apologies.
Yes. I said, if it's any other than Allah, I am other than Allah, humans are other than Allah, so we qualify under that conditional statement, right, that we cannot make books without errors, and that simply is not true. We cannot.
Right, Pete. Again, I will tell you, it's back to translating Shakespeare into English. I read the verse specifically because I knew you were going to raise this. It says very clearly, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. What is it talking about? The Qur'an. I appreciate you don't want to read this, but the point is, it specifically is mentioning the Quran. Now, logic dictates, Pete, anyone who is going to be asked, what is the Quran? They will tell you, well, everything that this, from cover to cover, that is contained, yes? And I'm talking about the Quran, not the translation of the historical elements, etc. Okay? The point here is, Pete, it's talking about the Quran. So if you came to me with a 10-page book and claimed it is perfect, I would say to you, Pete, you are entitled to your opinion, but it certainly doesn't meet the test.
What if it was a book as big as the Quran?
Then not only what if, this is the point I made at the start about the objective test. And you have come right back to it, and I'm glad. But I will tell you something, Pete. I will tell you something. Basically, I'm using this as my closing. Yeah, I saw your video of your story. Yes, I just watched it yesterday. Okay, in which you tell the listener why you ended up to where you are. Okay, and one of the things that came across to me was when you said that I actually, on a piece of paper, I noted down the exact place, using what you said, how perfect you can record things on a computer. I'm using the word computer. Yeah. Yeah, I actually noted down the exact place where you had said, when you were praying to God, yes, and that unfortunate event occurred. Thereafter, you went forward, you went to the Quran, then you were reading it, Pete, and you are saying in the video how amazed you were, yeah, that were these people reading the same thing you were reading, yes? And halfway through you decided to dispense with it. You stopped reading it.
I've read the Quran in many.
No, obviously you would have after that, I'm sure you, but I'm going to...
I stopped reading it partway through and decided to research every Quran miracle claim I could find.
To the video.
No, I did read it all the way through. I don't believe I said that I stopped reading. I may have said that's not proving.
Right, Pete, the video that you see, I'm glad because I knew there is a possibility you may have forgotten. That's why I actually noted down exactly which place you had said that. Yeah, but it is there, and you said that you never read it fully. Obviously, I knew that you must have read it subsequently. But the one thing I can say, yes, as I said in closing, Pete, I don't mind if we can have session 2, where we can go specifically to things that you fully understand and I fully understand. Yeah, rather than what I would consider, and I mean this with the greatest of respect, yes, rather than half-baked instances where we are trying to prove a point using language which, according to your admission, you have a basic understanding of, and I'm not suggesting I'm an expert either, okay? But I do know one thing, for me, any person who goes into a court of law would want to make sure that his defense attorney is going to be very, very familiar with the language in which the proceedings are going to take place.
Yeah, you've got to know the language inside out to understand it that transcends language.
No, that's the memory test. Pete, good try again. Good try.
He doesn't need a fluent Arabic to be able to know if two phonemes are the same. Ha is not the same as he. It's as simple as that.
I appreciate that, but Pete, how about us?
How? It's not the same as Tinin. I don't need to speak Arabic.
Well, actually, at least while we're discussing that, you made the admission that, look, it might not necessarily be the way you think it is, which I agree with. However, what I'm saying, Pete, is, look, and I sincerely mean this, and I do apologize, yes, but it has gone past midnight. Can we, God willing, can we maybe rearrange another discussion, Pete? And this time we choose the subject matter, we determine the criteria beforehand so that we can go straight into the conversation after.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you want to define a topic and a criteria and criteria, then I'll definitely look at it and consider if I want to do it or not. Obviously, I'm not going to make an unconditional promise in advance. But if you want to do that, then I'll look at it.
That's fine. So when are you going to tell me about the challenge of the 10 people who memorize the Bible?
Well, I'll have to see it as soon as I can get time to look at it.
So there must be a sort of indication, so I know, so I can put it down in my mobile phone.
It's not going to take me more than a year, obviously.
I hope not, otherwise we will have forgotten by then.
I'm not going to say. In fact, I'll send a message. What I'll do, I'll send a message to my wife.
Is she your secretary?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
She's just extremely nice, useful person.
Is it? You will pass my regards on to her.
Right. I'm just going to write, please ask me about challenge to name 10 people who can remember the Bible word for word, the same edition. And then when I present that to you, you will accept your original opening statement is without basis, and that will be good because we have an objective test.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I agree entirely. Pete, can I just say one thing? If I have come across as in any way upsetting, offensive, etc., please do forgive me. That was not my intention at all. Anything untoward that has been said. It was not an intention, it is in the context of the discussion, and I do sincerely ask for your forgiveness if I have come across like that, okay?
Well, perhaps if we do it again, then
yes.
we can also make some agreements on what certain things
Agreed.
We should or shouldn't do, and what have you.
Agreed, definitely.
Okay, right.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Pete. God bless.
I enjoy talking about religion and understanding other people's ideas. And,
yeah.
There's not many people actually try to put forward a case for why they believe what is true. So it's nice of you to join in. Thanks very much.
Right. Thank you very much.
Speak to you again some other time.
Soon. God willing. Thanks. Bye bye.